Welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Hello and welcome to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast, episode 66. My name's Ian.
And I'm Nikki.
Oh, here we go.
I'm so ill.
Oh, she's so ill.
I am.
Tell us a tale.
Oh, do you want to know what I've got?
Oh, here we go.
I've got, well, just get over tonsillitis. Shut up. I've had a horrible cold that's turned into tonsillitis. It's probably gave me a chest infection that gave me an eye infection, and now my sinuses are blocked up. What music is that exactly? It's not even the right music, is it?
Well, no, because the copyright and all that was my own song.
That was your own song, was it? I'm not happy with you now. No sympathy I've had. I've not been looked after.
The sob story of Nicole. Oh.
I hate everyone.
Okay, you finished now?
No.
Can we keep going now?
We might be able to.
Okay,
I don't know. I'm going to drink my cup of tea.
I'm going to have to say this because we've got to say it. It's the last episode of the century.
Oh, look at the state I'm in. Brilliant.
Jeez. Yeah, this is how it's going forward.
Gee, God.
The death of Nicole. Will she see it to the next year?
No, I don't think I'm going to make it. Hey, this is it. This is my this is my swan song.
Swan song.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great one that is. This episode then, we've got loads of books to talk about.
Oh, I'm so pleased we're talking.
For once, she's been quiet. Mike and Pete have got a long ramble about Christmas comics.
Oh, we need to kill them.
Comics of the year, and Tom's
we just need to kill them, okay?
Kill them.
All right.
Well, you just go and give them a kiss and give them all your diseases.
Have all my diseases.
All your diseases. So we're going to look at a load of books because we've not looked at comics the past few episodes. We're also going to give our comic of the year. No countdown anything this time. We're just going to choose one that we've enjoyed in particular this year.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start talking. Do you want to go first or shall I go first?
No, I'll go first.
You go first, because some of them we've spoken together.
Right.
Sorry, we've read together. Some we've only read individually. So you
what
take
do you
your
go
pick
for
then.
first?
What do you want to go for?
We'll go, because I've got a pile here.
Yeah.
So we'll go with Haru.
Haru
by Joe Latham.
How do you say Haru? Because I feel it's got a very oriental Haru.
Why would it sound like that?
I don't know.
It's a little bird.
Yeah, well, Haru.
It's not an owl.
Haru.
It's more like a little Tweety bird.
Do you want to read the bump? Is there some bump?
I will read the bump in my beautiful, beautiful voice. Back then, everything was so simple and sweet. I had my family, my friends, and my dreams.
And then she got sick.
Stop it. And together we lived lightly. We enjoyed the forest, thankful for everything it provided, until it provided something that changed everything.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I was just looking at the little picture Joe Latham had actually drawn in here for me.
The official nicest guy in comics.
Nicest guy in comics. He is just so sweet. You need to bottle up his essence, I think. I'll have essence of Joe.
Tell us about the story briefly then.
This beautiful, beautiful story. So, we've followed. I didn't mean that. The thing at the start. So there's an evil. An evil has gone through the land, and he gets beaten back. Yeah, but there's a little husk, a heart of evil. Okay, so we've got that in the background type thing going on, and then we've got Haru, a little bluebird who can't fly, and he's going off to school. Oh my God, he can't fly! He can't fly. It's so cute. He goes off to school, and he's a bit of a misfit, isn't he? Bless him.
Yeah,
I think a little bit of a misfit, and his best friend's a boar. Which I think is just so cute. And it's got a little, is it brother or sister? I can't remember. Little brother in there as well. And it's just this. I can't wait for the whole series because the book is so beautiful. God, this is how sound big headed. It's a bit like mine, in which case it builds up a lot of things. It's quite quietly going forward.
Well, it is. It's in a similar style. It's not watercolored, but it feels very watercolored.
Well, it
in
is.
Its look. Well, it's computerised, isn't it? So.
Yes,
yeah.
but not all of
it. But it feels.
Yeah,
that way is what I'm saying. And
it's very delicate. Delicate is his art is to die for.
It is amazing. It truly is.
It is. I keep entering the competitions. I don't keep winning. I can't butch him up anymore. I keep trying. I won't stop trying. But no, his art is amazing, and this book is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to have my hands on the whole lot.
this is and I'm going to make a negative on this comic.
Don't you dare make a negative. I will beat you to death with it.
Don't buy this comic expecting to be fulfilled with a story. This is definitely part one of a... Some comics you can buy part one and it gives you something towards the end. This isn't disrespectful of Joe because I can see this story is going to be
it's going to be amazing,
impressive and beautiful, but this won't leave you thinking, I'm satisfied. This makes you think, I need to see more.
Yeah.
I need to...
it definitely left you on, I want the next bit.
Yeah, it's sort of the cliffhanger. There's no real sort of...
Well, there is.
There is.
There is a cliffhanger.
But this is sort of like, right, I need the next part now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's and that's it's hard to do a storytelling right in these segments to get that sort of segmentation right.
Well, that's the reason I didn't read breaks in parts. I wanted the whole lot together.
You want the whole lot together.
So that's just getting the story out there, isn't there? So I don't think that's a negative because it's a beautiful piece to own.
This is why we stopped buying the regular comics rather than we want the collections.
Because
this is,
I don't want to be left.
Times.
Yeah, I'm left now wanting more.
And it's frustrating because it's going to be a little while, and you're like, I want to know what goes on.
Yeah,
and I think it's definitely worth buying and reading.
Oh, definitely.
Having your knowledge that you won't feel satisfied because you want the rest of the story to come.
Yeah,
you really do want the rest. Of the story. You want to see what's going on.
I want to know what's happening. Yeah,
and it's certainly something we'll be. Put it this way, we'll be continuing.
Oh yeah, as soon as the second part comes out, we'll be there because I need to know what happens.
Which show is he at? Let's go and find him.
Yeah, we're just going to stalk him forever.
Let's go and find him, get a little picture in it.
Yeah.
But the artwork, Joe's artwork, is some of the most beautiful.
It is.
Artwork, lovely laid out comic.
Yeah.
That just takes you to each frame.
It is. I love the flow of his work. It's a fantastic book, and buy it. It was on my list for the top if we were going to do a top one.
We've not read his other stuff, and we probably do need to grab that now, just based on the skill involved in that that book there.
But it's the whole thing. It's going to be beautiful, but it's when you're an independent person, you've got to bring it out in these little.
It really is
it's too expensive to do a great big one as well, straight off.
Yeah, but I think, do you feel let's have a discussion about this. Then. Do you feel you're put off when you're in going to a con and you see comics on the table? And you see part one or whatever?
Yeah.
Are you put off? Do you think, I don't really want to, because I don't know if I'm going to, one, you don't know, I know Joe will continue the story, but one, you don't know, is the story going to continue? Do these people going to get enough sales to warrant them continuing the story?
Yeah.
Two, are you ever going to see this person again to buy the story?
Right, I see what you mean.
Does it put you, and I know I will happily pay £1 or £2 more for a complete story than have these part segments.
I don't know, because I look at it a little bit differently. Because if the art is beautiful, I don't care if it's a part one. I'd even buy like a part two if the art was beautiful.
Okay.
And never have the part one. So maybe I look at it a little bit differently. Sometimes the story isn't everything. I don't know. But I can see what you mean.
See, look at
I prefer to buy the collected edition.
Yeah. The Glim in the Globe or Glim in the Girl. We've had that 2-3 years ago now, and brilliantly for them, they've got a publishing deal.
Yeah,
but it's meant that
it's
now so far down the line, and you want to know what's going on.
I suppose, because life goes on, doesn't it, in between those times? So you might you might lose people. I suppose
that's the concern with part stories, and it's fine if you're a big publishing company that can pay for someone to create these stories and you release them every 2 weeks. That's not an issue. But when you're not doing, you can only do one a year because you've got a real life out there, you've got a job, you've got this, that, and the other. It makes it hard, I think. Yeah,
but then there is artists and creators like Joe, which you would.
Oh God, don't get me wrong. This is a problem, isn't it? This is a problem with self-publishing. It causes this issue of trying to get the stories out there in enough time to keep those customers coming in, and it's something that. Well, it's something we thought. I mean, I thought about the book that you're looking at now as a graphic novel.
I'm not going to do that in parts.
No, it wouldn't, because I just don't think it'd.
I don't think
work.
No, it wouldn't.
So it's.
No, I need to get everyone at once on that one. But then there's other ones that do work as parts.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? It's just a thought. Just different how different people buy things. I mean, Joe's is a different example because his art stands out
it's
completely different way. But some people have to purely rely on the story. The art's fine, does the job, but the story is what drags you in, and then you're having to wait 2 years.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah, like I say, it's a difficult one. Horses for courses and such.
Yeah. I think it's just something for creators to think about, especially small press creators when they're trying to sell at cons. It's a hard one.
And when you're starting out, you can't afford a book.
Well, then
you want to get your bits out.
Well, then do you focus on a script then that is just going to be a single piece, a single book, and a single short comic that shows your
Oh, no, you see,
style.
you get too technical, my brain hurts. I'm not well.
If you can create a story in 40 pages that shows your style when you're completely fresh,
yeah.
You know, look at Jong's Aimee as an example.
Yeah.
You know, that shows what you can do.
Yeah.
Then people are then going to then jump onto when you do your part works, like Joe's here, you know the quality is going to come out.
Well, you hope for me, don't you? But yeah.
I'm not talking about you in particular.
I guess so, yeah. I haven't really given it much thought, personally.
It's something I've always thought about. It's something the Awesome podcast mentioned as well. But it is something I've always thought. I've always preferred the collected
I always
stories.
prefer the collected editions, only because I read too fast as well. So I need to have the whole story there because I don't like waiting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's just me.
So that's me jump onto the next one then, which is A Story in One. Project Hoax by Samuel George London and Dan Butcher of the Awesome Comic Podcast.
Lovely Dan.
Lovely Dan. You like Dan, don't you?
I like Dan.
You chat to Dan.
I like Dan. I don't know if Dan likes me, but I like him.
Well, he gives you a hand and advice. And
He does.
He does.
He's very nice. He's very sweet.
He may just do that because he feels he has to for the OAPs, but...
Oh, what do you say? I'll help the little old ladies on. Please, sir.
Right, let me just read the bump for the back. Set in 1994, a group of school kids plan to get their own back on the local bully, but get more than they bargained for when they try and stage a monster hoax.
Ooh.
So this is...
I haven't read that one.
No, you've not.
I'm so sorry. I'm really bad.
This immediately you think Stranger Things. You know, it's taking you back to...
The front cover says that to me.
A time from when we all grew up. You know, us oldies.
Oh, will you
from
stop?
The 90s. No, it's England. It's set in England 1994. And
I almost left school then.
No, quite. Well, yeah.
96.
You got that feel of being a kid, you know, no mobile phones.
I was 16.
Basic computer entertainment systems such as a Mega Drive or so. And it's all about a group of kids trying to get back at a bully.
Yeah.
By staging a hoax, a creature or something.
Well, unfortunately, I'm reckoning it really turns up.
But throughout the story, then something happens that changes it.
Ooh.
I like Dan's art.
Oh, yeah.
I like the way his art flows, and it's definitely ideal for sort of kids, which is what this is. It's a kids' comic. Really sort of pulls the colours out, you know, that kids are going to love.
Yeah.
The story is generally really enjoyable, but there's probably not enough towards the end.
Who's pissed in your cornflakes this morning?
I'm trying to be a bit more honest with comics.
Blimey.
Oh, I'm not. Stop.
God dear.
But I'm not going to explain that because that would ruin the end.
Right.
But overall, it's really enjoyable. I can see what they're trying to do with this comic, setting in the 90s, really bringing back the 90s vibe.
The nostalgia.
Which, to be fair, we've been watching nothing but nostalgia trips, haven't we, recently TV with the movies
how the
that
films are
and
made
obviously
and
the
stuff.
Toys one that was out last year.
Yeah.
And it all just brings it back. And you're reading this and you're like, yeah, oh, to be back.
Oh, to be back.
Back in those days when life was easy.
It was.
You had no mobile phones to deal with.
No, nothing like that.
And you could make monsters out of cardboard just like they did on the movies. So, no, it's a really enjoyable comic. Project Hoax, go and give that a go. And it's a one-shot story. Mm-hmm. So, grab that at a con near you.
A con near you?
Yeah. What's the next one?
Oh, don't make me try and think of stuff. But I picked up this one. Actually, my friend
No, this one's a bit different, isn't it?
Work, yeah.
Because this isn't in your usual graphic novel location or anything.
No, this was number 3, 5 in our book list at work.
Sainsbury's.
Sainsbury's.
Not Waterstones or something.
In a supermarket. And my friend had seen it and she dragged me over. So what we eventually did was we both bought a copy and said it was for each other for Christmas and then took our own copies home. Because it's just... That's
what we do with Jack Daniels. We buy each other a Jack Daniels.
And then we just drink it. But this book, it's absolutely beautiful. It's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. Mackesy.
Right, we've ruined that. He's an English guy. We can't even say his name.
Oh, my God. Mackesy. It's because of the S in it. Just leave me alone.
Give us some bump, love.
I don't know if there's any bump, to be fair. I'm just flicking through it now. Oh, he's written a bump.
Well, go on, give us a basic outline then.
You start at the beginning, which is impressive. I usually start in the middle and never read introductions. It's surprising that I've made a book because I'm not good at reading them. The truth is I need pictures. They're like islands, places to get into a sea of words. This book is for everyone, whether you're 8 or 80. I feel like I'm both sometimes. I like it to be you. One you can dip into anywhere, anytime. Start in the middle if you like. Scribble on it, crease the corners and leave it well thumbed. The drawings are mainly of a boy and I can't speak. A fox and a horse. I'll tell you a little bit about them, although I'm sure you'll see things here that I don't, so I'll be quick. The boy is lonely when the mole first surfaces. They spend time together, gazing into the wild. I think the wild is a bit like life, frightening sometimes, but beautiful. In their wanderings, they meet the fox. It's never going to be easy meeting a fox if you're a mole. The boy is full of questions. The mole is greedy for cake. The fox is mainly silent and wary because he's been hurt by life. The horse is the biggest thing they've ever encountered and also the gentlest. They are all different like us, and each has their own weaknesses. I can see myself in all 4 of them. Perhaps you can too. The adventure happens in springtime, when one moment snow is falling and the sun shines the next, which is also a little bit like life. It could turn on a sixpence. I'll stop it there. But they're just little ink drawings and some watercolour and pastel in there as well. And it is just little quotes, really.
There's a story going through it, though, isn't there, as well?
They're trying to find their way home.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of says that you are home in a way. I think it's actually just the journey through life. So I think if they ever get to the end, they'll die, basically. Honestly, I think it's just, it's just life. But it's absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to find one now.
Would you say this is a perfect book?
Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's one here. What's your best discovery, asked the mole. That I'm enough as I am, said the boy. It's just things like that, and it just makes you go, oh, yeah. Oh, it's like a Bible. I've decided this is my Bible of life.
Okay.
Because you're having a really naff day. You just come out, you look at the beautiful art, and like I say, it's so simple, and you just open one of the pages, and you just feel better about everything. It's a little piece of this man's soul, really, on the pages, and it's absolutely beautiful. And the fact that it's reached, the top 10 of The Guardian and all the rest of it. I think it was number 1 for a bit.
You can't get into interview, that's for sure. We've tried.
No, we can't get to interview. He's incredibly shy as well. Incredibly shy. So he had something, because he started on Instagram, and it was just the people on Instagram telling me he should do a book. I think Penguin, is it Penguin? Yeah, Penguin took him up, and he actually created this book. But yeah, he's put up on there that if it wasn't for people telling him he could do it, he would never have done it. And he'll be hiding in the toilet whilst this all happens. So yeah, he's just a gentle soul, and it comes across.
The thing is, people may pick this up who've never read comics.
Yeah.
And they would look at it and they would never class it as a comic.
No.
And they would never compare that to Haru, to Project Hoax.
Yeah.
They would look at them as completely different things.
Yeah.
That being an adult book, them being kids' books.
Yeah, which is silly because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as everything else. It's just the fact that a big company's picked it up.
So the challenge is how as an industry,
break through?
Do you get that sensibility, that story into people's minds that all of these books that we're discussing are on the same level?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This isn't on any better level than any of the other ones here. It's just the fact that it's obviously being picked up. So it was there, and I mean, I didn't even think of looking. Well,
no, you don't. The cover, the cover just looks.
It could be anything.
Could be anything at all. You wouldn't even, think of trying, not in Sainsbury's. You might walk in a comic shop and think, oh, that looks nice.
Yes, it is bound beautifully.
But you wouldn't think in Sainsbury's that is anything like an art style book.
No, I think it was between Jeremy Clarkson and something else. when I looked.
Comic.
So, you're right. You don't. You wouldn't know, but it's a beautiful graphic novel. I'm so pleased it's actually made it to places like Sainsbury's and that.
So would you say this is something that if you want to buy your mum for Christmas, that you want to try and make her understand what you enjoy in your comics, this could be
I'd buy it for anyone.
Thing. Oh, I'm just using an example.
I would buy it. Personally, I'd buy it. Everyone needs a copy because it is so gentle and heartfelt. I think everyone should have a copy of it. But that's just me.
Well, if we can, we'll keep trying to get him on the show because I think it'd be an interesting and a different
I think once
person.
the hype's all dropped down, because it's very much still hyped up at the minute, and Christmas is out the way, maybe we should approach him.
Try again.
Yeah, I think because he's very, very nervous. I don't know if he ever would.
Well, I'm not scary.
No, but he's been on like Radio 4 and stuff. So.
Yeah, well, we're better than them.
But no, he comes across as a lovely person, and his art just comes across as beautiful. So it is just beautiful. If you get the chance to have a look at it. And because that's the other thing. Now it's so hyped up and everything. People might go, "Oh, well, it's like the Harry Potter of what's it?" But
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about hype. That annoys me actually because if it's hyped up and it's being bought, there's usually a reason. Yeah. Not always. Sometimes it's just because there's something scandalous in there, or 50 Shades is an example. But just because it's done well doesn't mean
it doesn't take anything from it. No,
take it as a positive.
On this, definitely, because it is just such a beautiful little book. Little book is huge, but it's a beautiful book.
And it's something that your style sort of move into, and in some ways, it's sort of similar to how you do work in some ways.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of blank.
There is.
He uses a negative.
The thing that I whinge about.
Yeah.
I should just shut up.
Yeah, you should. I relate with the fox. No, I don't. I relate with the mole in this one, though, because he loves cake, and everything can be made better with cake.
Cake.
So
well,
I'm
that's
fine
true.
With that. Yeah.
That's true. Right, next one I'm going to read about is a small one. It's called It's There by... There we go.
I can even say an English name, so you know.
Rateme.
Wow.
Well, you...
Oh, don't give it to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We picked this up at Thought Bubble.
We did.
The guy just stood at his desk selling these sort of small zine comics. And I thought there was something about it that I really liked. Just its black and white style. Mm-hmm. Hardly any words. It's jumping out of this. It's like the same thing all the time.
I've infected you.
And I don't know what it was, because I could see it was only a short, quick read, but there's something about it that really pulled me in. And essentially the story is about what we're all trying to do, and that's find our home, find our place where we belong.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's all of these books so far.
And it just follows, this young lad's challenge to try and find that place, and is he going to find it? And it really is that simple. And I think that's our daily life, our daily challenge. Yeah. Of do we find where we belong?
Probably with me in a plague hospital.
Can we find where we belong? So it's only a short little book, and you pick it up knowing that, but it's something that you can just read every now and again.
Yeah, I like ones yourself, you can come back to. Yeah.
The challenge is that there's not only you that's trying to find that place and trying to find where you belong. And if you find it, well done.
Yeah.
Come
on, we're all winging it. Actually, that's what comes out in that book as well. We're all winging it. No one knows where we're really going. We're just all winging it.
Do you not find where you belong, though? Have you not found that yet?
Does anyone really?
Yeah, I have.
You have now?
Yeah.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah.
Oh, you liar. I just think we wing it.
No, we found our home in Kendal, this
that's
is
true.
it, and that's that. But there's people out there who just have got no idea in their mind at the minute where they need to be, and hopefully one day they'll find it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at the smaller aspects, like you say, you got the job, you don't got the job you want, you haven't got this, that, and the other you want. That's the majority of people, let's be honest.
That's everyone.
No, not everyone.
No, there's that 1% of people who've got the job that we all want. Yeah.
Majority of people. So yeah, that's an interesting one. If you see him at cons again, I think if I ever see him again, I'm going to have to try and find him on Twitter or for social media.
Yeah.
I've been intrigued by other works.
Is he on there? I wasn't sure he was.
No idea. I've not searched, so I need to have a gander.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, next one. We're going to do the one we've both read.
Oh, sorry. We've got a lot on the table.
Yeah,
here.
we have.
Okay.
This is, again, another one from... we're given a Thought Bubble. Comic House gave us an absolute stack of stuff.
Oh, they did. They're so nice.
Stack of stuff to read.
Have you got this one? We're like, no.
No, yeah, okay. This is one that's been on my radar for a long time, actually. I've had a read on the Comic House app, but now we've got it print. We do like it.
I do like a print. I like to hold it in my hands.
So let's go. There's a load of creators on this. So you got the artist and co-creator Andy W. Clift, writer and co-creator Mike Garley, colours Nathan Ashworth, letters Mike Stock, cover artist Derek Robertson, and published by Comic House.
Uh-huh.
And this is 32 kills. The thing that jumps out on this, I'm counting the panels here.
I was just going to say, it's 32, isn't it? 16. Yeah, 32.
So 16 a page, 32 of the two.
Do you know, that just 32. Came into my head as well. I was like, quick, count them.
And the story, it's just constant small
kills.
Panels,
about 32 of them, I reckon.
Following a female assassin, agent, killer, as she goes on a journey to kill.
It gives me so many questions.
Why?
Because obviously she knows.
Why is she killing the people she's killing? What's she doing?
Why did she not take a dog? That's one that's really getting to me.
And it's like the last 20 minutes of a good action. I was about to say Michael Bay action movie, but that's not a good action movie. Of a good action movie.
Yeah.
The finale of whatever's gone on before.
Yeah, but what's in the envelope?
You're now getting the finale. Well, that's what you
see, so much. No, I need answers.
And it is that superhero, normal person who can just dodge the bullets, who can
Which doesn't, does she? She doesn't dodge them.
Well, no, but Arnie never does. He always gets shot in the shoulder.
Always
get
one, yeah.
But he can take out however many people he needs to get to that,
Yeah.
That into or the rock.
All the questions. All the questions.
Done in beautiful black and white. It is just a really fun comic.
Fun.
No, it's I think fun. Well, it is. It's fun. Again, we're leading back to the action movies, in my opinion, from the 80s and 90s. Yeah, they have them these days, but it's more in that style of the that last 20 minutes of
It's very slick.
It is.
I like the action scenes because they're slick action scenes.
So if you just want a comic that's just gonna in your mind, that's how I
pronounce
it. If you want to put a quote, it makes you.
Right, how do you spell that for your quote?
Boom, kapow,
kapow.
Batman styley. Then that's the one.
Yeah.
Do you want me to continue?
You can do.
Do you want to leave a certain one to the end?
Yes.
All right. We'll leave a certain one to the end. Another one picked up at Fort Bubble. I thought this was a one-off story. It's not. Tomb of the White Horse by Ian Mondrick, Benjamin Filby, Leslie Atlansky, and Zach Saam.
I'm having trouble with the cat. Hang on.
You're having trouble with the cat.
Here
we go. Covered by Kim
Untangler.
I'm trying to find some bump to read. There's no bump to read. Creators, put some bump in. Makes it easy. Think about us reviewers. It's a story of factory gets a strange delivery of a package full of Bibles, and then something encased within those Bibles is sat there. And as you'd expect within all...
Is it a gremlin?
Horror-style comics, somebody is nosy enough to investigate and go where they shouldn't go.
Well, that's how it all starts,
always
usually.
Starts that way. You got a young man who's obviously gone through a bit of turmoil. He's sort of picked on a little bit by his colleagues, as you always generally have. And it's an intriguing story. I mean, you kind of know what's coming up, like any horror film or so forth, any horror story. You have an idea that something's going to go on within the story.
Yeah.
But I really love the style of the art, the darkness within the art, but yet a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a challenging thing to do, personally. Not being an artist.
No, he's not.
I'm not an artist. But I've really enjoyed what I read. I'm intrigued by the story, but it does finish on a good point. But I'm intrigued with where it's going to go.
You got to wait now for part 2.
Yeah.
It's like your own personal nightmare now, isn't
it? I thought it was going to be a one-off. We'll see. But yeah, I'm intrigued enough to pick it up whenever it comes out. And I love the cover and the size as well of this particular comic. I really do. I just like it.
It's A4, isn't it? Yeah.
I do like it.
Well done, dear. I'm glad you like it.
Shall I continue?
Yes. Well, there are on your side of the thing.
They are, the ones I've read. Right. This one, we've got to talk about. I mean, the creators are a bit of, we put up with them. It's like that Pete Taylor, isn't it? And
oh, God.
I know. It's just...
Oh, I wouldn't. Don't say anything. I mean, he's even written on yours.
I know, both of them have.
Oh, for God's sake.
I don't know what we can do. But yeah, so this... this is Silverbeard, which... Okay, he's on the podcast, blah, blah, we know him very well.
Yeah.
But I feel we've got to talk about the 7 Sagas of Silverbeard because it is such a quality comic.
Pete was quite quiet, and then he did this, and it's like, hello, Pete.
From day one, and you can sit here and agree with me, hopefully, I've said Pete can do more than what he's doing. From day one, when we saw his style,
we knew of
what
his
he was
potential.
doing was not what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And since he started focusing more on the comic, this is really shown in the art style that he puts out and the story that he puts out as well. Obviously, it's not just Pete; it's Mark Hughes as well. Obviously, Sock. So it's just the pair of them. I've put this amazing
because he's always got Son of Ken as his thing. I just always think of his obviously his name's Ken.
So, as I think we've explained, or Pete's explained before, this is looking back at Silverbeard from the bygone times.
Yes.
And bringing those old stories to the current day.
Oh, it's entirely.
So you've got 2 sort of small stories within the comic. You've also got amazing little designs where he's done, like we discussed with the adverts, the beer truck toys.
Yeah. We've got them.
The 7 Sagas explains, so he goes through the whole
7 Sagas.
Ages of the apes. With, again, beautiful artwork for each one. And then, as it's an older comic, you've got to have the letters page.
Yeah, you got to.
Because why not?
Yeah.
And some beautiful art pages in the back as well. Absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, this, forget it's Pete, forget he works on the show. This is just a beautiful comic in its own right.
Oh yeah, he does so well on this one.
The pair of them have. So yeah, grab that.
Yes, they both have, yeah.
Grab that, get it ordered, because it is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one more to talk about, and then we can finish on your last one.
You don't seem to have your book of the year out.
I've got it. I've got a list of what I'm going to talk about when we get to that point.
There's a list? You told me I had to choose one.
I've had to choose a list.
You've had to choose a list. You can't just suddenly throw, I've had to choose one.
Well, you can say of which would be the ideas as well.
Fine.
Yeah, anyway, so...
Don't tell me nothing.
This one I've wanted to pick up for a while. This is Cree by Una.
Yes.
Who did the Becoming Unbecoming, absolutely amazing.
Oh, amazing book, that.
Book. I mean, the year we started really getting into this was when that came out.
Yeah.
And Paul the Knight's book as well, and you're like, gee, this is comics, wow.
Yeah.
This is something different.
Yeah.
So, life always takes you by surprise. It finds you. That's the best part. In Una's new graphic novel, Jolene finds friendship and creativity with a Cree group. Follow her on a journey through the rural and urban landscape of County Durham in this gentle, colourful story that plays out with symmetry and the sequential in Una's distinctive and innovative style.
Well done. There's some long words for you there.
There was. More than 4 letters. So it's a very sort of gentle story following... That's what it's a real life situation following Jolene, quite simply making her way into town. You're looking at the countryside as you're going through to this group of ladies who essentially it's a group where people have had problems and issues or loneliness or drugs or whatever. Yeah. You know, husband problems. Group. And they make things to sell and talk to each other.
This is a real group.
It is. Yeah, she explained, didn't she, when we spoke to her? It's got a lovely pull-out section in the middle that sort of opens the whole shop and what's going on within the shop and the different people in there. And then it just follows as they leave and then go back to the normal life. I do like very simple technique, but it's black and white up until it starts to become colourful. And until she actually gets to the place, that's when the colour really jumps out.
Well, it's where she's found her place, isn't it? It's finally what we like.
Whoa, it's like we planned this.
This is got a bit meta now, haven't we?
And then again, the colour drains as she's getting home and getting to whatever's going on.
Exactly. So the high point.
High point
where
is being
where she gets
with her
colour in her
friends
life
and the people and making a difference, I suppose.
Or getting out of wherever she was, where she didn't want to be.
Yeah. So it's very worth picking up and if you have problems looking at these groups yourself.
Yeah.
they're out
Definitely.
there. I'm sure there's similar things in majority of cities.
Yeah, you just got to find them, and it can be quite hard to find.
Yeah. But they're usually welcoming when you do find them. That's the thing. It's just actually getting involved and stepping out there. But I'm not in a position to to say these things. I'm quite lucky. I've never had to deal with that. But there's so many people I know that do need the help there. So grab that, and you get a better idea of what I'm trying to explain there. Better than I can.
Yeah.
Okay. And the final one, Book of Forks.
Yes.
Go for it.
Can I say now?
Go for it.
That this is my book of the year.
There we go.
This is my book of the year. I've been waiting for this for so long. It's
about a year overdue.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. Fine. But it's this finished. I mean, it was my first book, graphic novel that I ever read, really, for this. And it's come full circle now, and I'm ever so pleased. Mm-hmm. And everyone needs to read the 3 books to be immersed in this weird and wonderful world.
Has this got some bump on the back?
It has got some bump on the back. Try and explain. Well, I don't know if everyone should. Everyone should know. Castro Smith finds himself imprisoned within the mysterious power station, writing his Book of Forks, or navigating baffling daily meetings with Polly, a troubled young woman who may be his teacher, his doctor, his prison guard, or something else entirely. Meanwhile, back home, Vera and Scarpa's search for their missing friend takes us through the chaotic war zone of the bear park. I mean, who does bears with baby faces? But carry on. And into new and terrifying worlds. With the Book of Forks, Rob Davis completes his abstract adventure trilogy by stepping inside Castro's disintegrating mind to reveal the truth about the history of the world and the meaning of existence and the purpose of kitchen scales. I mean, that says it all, really, doesn't it? You don't need any more than that.
So, does this answer the questions from the previous stories?
Yes.
Does this answer the questions in a way you're satisfied with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It brings everything together. It's so much bigger as well than it's got so much information. It's got an encyclopedia in there, for God's sake. It brings back while you're reading it, you know what's going on. And you get it, and then you put the phone down, and you put the book down, and you're like, I don't get it. But I love it. I love it for that. I love the fact that each book is we're following a different character. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously this is Kaz's one. And it's I don't want to say too much because I don't want to muddy the waters or give anything away. But it definitely it finishes the whole story. It finishes the whole story really well, but leaves you kind of want more, but there is no more. But yeah,
is it one of these where we just hope they don't do? To be fair,
he's not going to do anymore. No.
He said that.
This ties everything up.
Yeah,
but it opens up into so much more worlds that are out there. I mean, they have to go through so many different places. Mm-hmm. And it just leads you, basically, your mind unravels while you read it, and that's fine.
So it'll be intriguing to see where Rob goes from here, whatever he creates next.
I don't know if you could keep that kind of thing up.
Well, no, I think it's going to be something different.
It has to be something completely different, odd. Because, that's just taking it somewhere else. But that is my book of the year.
It's fair enough.
And I love it. But I'd also like to mention that Breaks 2 is up there, and Haru. Thank you very much.
That's quite all right. The problem I've got with Book of the Year is a lot of the stuff I've read this year isn't from this year. So it depends on what we're deciding, whether it's...
Well, so what's released this year, I guess.
Well, then the ones that really have hit me this year have not been released this year. So I'm going to give a bit of a short list.
Well, you can't have them then, can you?
I'm going to discuss
You can't have... No, sorry, you can't have
Well, there's 2 that haven't been released this year that we've read this year. I'm just going to talk about first. Kingdom by John McKnought. By Nobel Press, and a lot.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
3 of these have got similar sort of vibes.
Okay.
That came out sort of late 2018, so that unfortunately doesn't fall in.
No,
this
it
year.
Doesn't. You can't have it.
But I love the style. Again, the small panels throughout the book, and I love the look at life as a kid, and then dealing with that as an adult as well, and watching your kids do the things that you did. But obviously, when you look back in life, it seems so much better and different. And
looking back always looks better.
The other one, which Jeff Lemire, I want him at the festival. He's my hero in comics at the moment. Underwater Welder.
Oh, you love that.
Again, following the story of his son and the links to his father and trying to capture what went on with his father. Similar sort of links, it's families and dealing with the link between childhood and adulthood. And I love Jeff's. I mean, this is like 2012, I think this came out.
Yeah, you definitely can't have that.
I've only just found this sort of stuff now. So
you can't say that. I'm sorry, no.
I love Jeff's style. I love Jeff's story writing. I love his artwork. I think he's a stunning creator, full stop. Okay. So the two from this year then.
Go on.
One, which isn't the top of the year, but I just want to talk about, briefly mention Plan A, Plan B by John Tucker.
Oh, you liked that, didn't you?
So clever in its format and creation.
That was the fireworks,
wasn't it?
You've got two
stories that all link to one finale.
Yeah, that was the fireworks, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, John Tucker's work, he just creates these most amazing visual treats in whatever he does, different forms, different styles, and he's got a new one coming out this year. And yeah, it's more just the cleverness of what he does and the way he does comics differently to everyone else. Absolutely stunning. But the one that sort of got me this year, and it's always the ones that are quite emotional for me.
Ones you cry over, you mean?
Well, I didn't cry over this, but it's you know.
Did you not?
No, it wasn't Underwater Welder. Blossoms in Autumn.
Oh, really?
Which wasn't released this year, but it was released.
Oh, for the love of God!
It was released for the UK this year, so that counts.
So on a loophole and a technicality, you get that one in.
It was published in the UK this year,
right?
So that counts.
Oh, you like that? Oh,
so Zidrou and art by Aimee de Jongh. It follows a link. It's all about family, getting older, looking at your past and where are you now.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's all that sort of the emotion.
Yeah. Well, it's that image, isn't it, of the apple on the side going a bit wrinkly, and she goes, that's how she feels.
I thought the art was beautifully done. Really respectful of
people,
but treating the old generation. Well, it is, just treating them how it is and just being respectful to them. But the story was just beautiful. It's the type of thing you can imagine on a BBC on a Sunday night being played out. Nice little drama.
Oh, okay. I thought it was sunny. I just had this Roman Briggs moment.
What?
I probably got a temperature. I was like, they could do it like the Father Christmas ones, couldn't they?
No. But no, it's because I looked back at what we read, and this just seemed to jump out when I sort of, that was this year. Because you forget what comes out, unless it's one that you sort of read towards the end of the year. You forget what you read half the time.
That's very true.
But this one jumped out as, that if I'm looking at one from this year, that would be the one that jumps out for me. So that's two self-made hero published books.
It is.
They do well, self-made hero times. They are beautiful publishers. Yeah. And I say, the one from No Brow Kingdom, that would probably have been up there if it was this year, but unfortunately
you can't have it.
So I can't have that one.
Nope.
So I think that's part of my problem at the minute. Treating ourselves to an iPad, I'm finding Comixology and seeing the offers on, and like, that looks interesting, and trying so many new things which not necessarily out from this year. But hey ho, who cares?
Yeah, well, we don't.
No, we don't
exactly.
care. So they're books of the year from us.
Book of Forks and Blossoms in Autumn.
Yes, congratulations.
Well done.
But that doesn't mean that the others are bad. They're all brilliant books.
Oh God, no!
To have our favourites.
I mean, it's as if we were stuck on a desert island. You're allowed to take one book. That was kind of the criteria, isn't it? From this year.
From this year, not from 2012.
No, not from 2012.
Right, let's take a break. Let's listen to Pete and Mike waffle on about their Christmas comics and their comics of the year.
Oh, what did they choose?
We'll find out. They've not told us.
Have they not told us?
I'm saying that because I've not yet listened to the segment.
If you say anything about us or that one.
And also, Tom's got a review of the year as well.
Lovely.
We're going to come back afterwards just to briefly talk about a few films.
Ooh.
Room for one lawgiver, please.
Judge Dredd. Or is it just Dredd? Fancy seeing you here.
Catwoman, You also here for the Comic Art Festival or a stint in the ISO cubes?
Of course. I love to see my makers in action. Ah! Watch it, Greenie.
Careful, Hulk. In this town we have a saying. Once is a coincidence, twice is a booking offence.
I think he booked the events on the website.
Huh?
ComicArtFestival.com. It's got all the perfect information about the event.
Yeah, so's my fist. Drock, I'm out of here. Not standing around with those 4 tortoises that have just entered the building. Cowabunga, dude!
Find out all about the Lakes International Comic Art Festival and booking information at www.comicartfestival.com.
How do? Welcome to Mutter Downs, the yakking endlessly about comics section of the podcast. I'm Pete Taylor. I'm a small press comics creator and illustrator. Online I trade as This Man, This Pete. And as always, the mutterings will be supplied by...
Mike. I am a fanboy and I've got nothing better to do.
On a Saturday morning.
On a Saturday morning.
Unusually for us. Yeah, morning chat. So, Mutter Downs Christmas Special 2019. We're doing Christmas comics.
We are. Christmas-themed comics throughout the years. And we're going to be discussing our top 3.
Top 3 Christmas comics. How easy did you find it? I mean, did you remember them or did you kind of have to...
Okay, 2 of my choices were easy. One instantly sprang to mind. One of them came through the door a couple of days ago.
Right. Oh, really?
So that was easy enough. And then the third one I had to really think about. And it might be one that you know, actually.
It's going to be interesting if because we usually have a little bit of a crossover. So it is going to be interesting if any of these cross over. Right, who's going to start?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
My number 3. And it comes from a stable of Aces Weekly, which I'm sure you are familiar with.
I am.
So this is the one I wasn't sure if you knew about. And I think it sums up everything that's kind of traditional about Christmas and good cheer and festive goodness. It's Santa Claus versus the Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
Published back in 2016, part of Aces Weekly, which is an online presence only. And you have published on Aces Weekly, have you not, Pete?
I am in volume 20.
20.
Of Aces Weekly, yes. That's the first appearance of Monster Kids.
Monster Kids, exactly. Yeah, it's. I know that Ian and Nicky have spoken about Aces Weekly before now, and it's a cracking little collective. It was David Lloyd, wasn't it, that put it together, which people may or may not know from V for Vendetta. And the idea was to, I think, go out initially to put pressure on all his other mates in the comic industry to try and pull in some big names. But what he actually found was just a load of talent out there. And the writers of Santa Claus versus the Nazis, it was Benjamin Dixon and artist Gavin Mitchell, who really were unknown, and this was kind of their break. And it's a cracking little Christmas story. It starts off with Winston Churchill naughtily waiting up for Santa, only to ask him to join the war effort. But of course, Santa is above all this, and he sees himself above the affairs of mankind. But that's until the Nazis locate his secret magic toy factory and they invade Lapland to take control. But of course, this is a magic factory, and they immediately freeze Santa and harness his magic and power, enslave the elves, and then turn Toyland into a munitions factory with, of course, the magical ability to deliver its deadly payload everywhere around the globe on a single night. So what follows from this is some of the escaped elves and Rudolph and a crack British squad have to rescue Santa and repel the Nazis in what can only be called a pastiche of Inglorious Bastards. I really do like this. It's a good lengthy story, and it really plays up to both war movie and naff Christmas movie tropes at the same time. It's got a really good sense of humour behind it. There are some cracking one-liners, which you have to, of course, mention. You've been a very naughty boy, Hitler. It's the classic to fit in there. What was the other one I wrote down? Time to teach the Nazis a lesson, lads. Nobody ruins Christmas and gets away with it. And that's just a cue for some really horrendous elf on Nazi violence. It's a really good parody. It's got a lot of heart, but I love the fact that it's done very straight. It's got, the artwork is very reminiscent of the kind of war stories that you read as a lad. It's kind of done straight, but with the humour added in. I really like that. I know that there is a little intro thing where David Lloyd talks about. He was obviously launching something that was digital. Aces Weekly was quite ahead of its time, wasn't it? Really?
Yes, very much so.
And they wanted a global audience. And of course, he was worried about, this is great for a British audience, and it plays up to British war humour tropes. But how would it go down in Germany, for example? So he kind of reached out and quickly came to the conclusion the only people that would be offended by this was neo-Nazis. So he considered that job done and published it immediately. If that's the only people you're going to offend. So I really like that little touch as well.
Yeah, good for him. I remember the first time I think I heard about Aces Weekly was when David Lloyd was at a Cardiff Comic-Con.
Right.
And we were there as the SEC. So obviously I was, I think, a huge David Lloyd fan. So I picked up, at the time you could buy a volume of Aces Weekly on a sketch card. Obviously it was an ongoing subscription service, which again was, it was essentially a weekly digital comic. So much like back in the day, you would go to the newsagent, or in my case, I'd go to my grandma and grandpa every Friday, and they would have bought a comic for all of their grandchildren. Yeah. And they were usually weekly comics. So he was doing the same with Aces Weekly. It was that kind of, and it was delivered digitally to your inbox. But you could also buy a complete volume with a sketch card. So he was doing, I got a Night Raven sketch on my sketch card, or a V Vendetta. But I remember the first time that visit, I think Benjamin Dixon was there. I remember they were promoting Santa Claus versus the Nazi, and they did have some artwork on the page. So I can't remember what volume it was. Do you remember what volume it was?
I don't actually know.
So because I started at the beginning. I bought volume 1, which, like you say, did have a lot of. I'm
pretty sure it's an early-ish one, like 1 or 2.
Back then.
Yeah.
Because I think I met him a couple of times and bought a couple of volumes before I asked about submitting to Aces Weekly, and then ended up being Monster Kids getting accepted. And by then, I think, and adding in the production time, I think by the time we got in at volume 20, I think that must have been about late 2016 actually for us. So maybe this was a bit earlier. But yeah, it was amazing. It was cracking to see it on the table. It was cracking to see it in that form. And I do remember reading online once I'd got the membership, some of the episodes. It was great fun. That's good.
Because the Aces Weekly stuff I got was through Comixology. Is that the only platform they're on?
No, they've got acesweekly.co.uk.
Straight. So okay.
Yeah. I don't think all of the volumes, they were putting them on Comixology, but I don't know if they put all of them on Comixology. I'll have to have a look actually.
I'm sure that's where I picked it up.
Yes,
Right.
it probably is. It was on there, but it's a kind of subscription service, so it's only, I think, £7, £7 per volume you buy. So I think, and each volume is 7 episodes. I think so. It works out like £1 a week.
Yeah.
If it's still the same price it was. So
£6 I had in my mind.
Yeah,
as soon as you said that, but yeah,
but
and it's a really good sort of smorgasbord of styles and stories.
Yeah.
It is a good thing to pick up.
Yeah, and there's some quite regular strips I think that have found a home there.
Yes, yeah,
that are recurring and do return regularly. And like you say, there's a great array of different creators there. In fact, I noticed there's another comic themed podcast called Off Panel with a guy called David Harper, and funnily enough, he's just had an interview with David Lloyd. So that I've downloaded that, ready to catch up with and it's obviously Aces Weekly centric.
Right.
I don't think he's not drawing. He might still be writing comics, but he's not drawing comics. I think at the moment he's absolutely concentrating on Aces Weekly, I think.
Yeah. I know we've covered Aces Weekly before on the show. I'm sure Nicky and Ian did an episode about it quite early on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pages and a lot of comics for £1 a week. So I mean, it's really worthwhile having a look at that. acesweekly.co.uk. Pardon me.
So what's your number 3 choice then?
My number 3 is Spider-Man's Tangled Web, number 21, from 2003. I mean, Spider-Man's Tangled Web. It's interesting. It was a series of sort of standalone stories by a very varied bunch of creators that didn't regularly work there a lot of the time. So you had people like Duncan Fegredo and Sean Phillips and Eduardo Risso, and and they would come in to do sort of one or double-parter stories. So I had a few of those, but I've also gone back and picked up a few on Comixology, just because I didn't really realise you would see them on the shelf, and sometimes you would pick it up based on the cover or because you knew who'd done it. In this case, Spider-Man's Tangled Web number 21 has a Darwin Cook cover on it, which was always an immediately pull for me. The story is called "'Twas the Fight Before Christmas," and it is a very old school story, perhaps a little too old school in parts, but it's that Spider-Man where he's still a photographer. I don't know actually my Spider-Man knowledge. I don't regularly read him. So in 2003, he probably wasn't in this particular period. So obviously part of the anthology, part of the standalone nature of these stories is they can be set at any period of his career. Yeah. But this is squarely in his photographer period, working at the Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson is wonderfully awful. You've got Betty Brant and Flash Thompson's in there. There's a bunch of Christmas orphans that have to be saved from the snow. You've got the Fantastic Four in there, again, very classic looking Fantastic Four in their kind of early Jack Kirby uniforms. Flash Thompson has to dress up as his hero Spider-Man, so it's that kind of that kind of story. Sue Storm goes off shopping with Crystal, the Inhuman, and the Wasp, and they have some of the dialogue. When I mentioned earlier, it's a little too old school. Some of the dialogue is like, "Come on, let's go and buy some shoes." And then when they jump into the Fantastic Car and fly off, they're all shouting, "Charge it!" So it's kind of like, this, how it would have been, I suppose back in the 60s. It's got that with the art as well. It's written and inked by Darwin Cook, and it's drawn by a Canadian illustrator called Jay Bone. And they've both got, a wonderfully 60s style to their art. So it is a real callback to that kind of fun adventure. Pretty much everybody gets mind controlled. The villain is revealed to be the puppet master, with Medusa, the Inhuman, under his control. So, of course, a massive fight breaks out in Macy's Toyland. It's fun. It's nostalgic. Knockabout, with it being written and inked by Darwin Cook and penciled brilliantly by Jay Bone, and they've done a lot of work together. It just takes it to another level. There's some cracking, big, wonderful, full-page panels that are, Kirby-esque in their style. It's gorgeous, and Darwin Cook was, he was a dynamite artist. He visited the Lakes Festival, I think, in 2015. I think it was the year. I think it was
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I think
I've been to the last 4. I think so. I think he was the year before that I didn't go to. So, but yeah, I mean, he unfortunately died in 2016. Known for Catwoman with Ed Brubaker. He completely sort of revamped Catwoman. DC: The New Frontier, of course, which really is his magnum opus. The Richard Stark Parker adaptations that he did, 4 of those in little exquisite hardback volumes. He wrote and drew The Spirit for 12 issues when DC got the rights to the Eisner creation. And then lots of these kind of little one-shots and short runs that he did. Wolverine Dupe, I think, was a reversal where he drew and Jay Bone inked. And this team, they like I said, they've worked together, but it's difficult when I was looking up what they had done together. A lot of sites list this issue as being drawn by Darwin Cook, and I think because he's inked Jay Bone, it just gives it that sort of sheen of Darwin. Looks like Darwin Cook,
right?
But in fact, when I did a bit of research and looked it up, Darwin Cook, on the very last page, you can see a couple of labels on presents where it says Dar inks and Bone pencils. And Wikipedia lists them both as co-plotters. So it's obviously, they've done a lot of work together. They worked on a previous issue of Tangled Web, number 11, on a Valentine's issue, which is good fun as well. I think with them both being Canadian, they've obviously, knocked around and their styles fit perfectly together. It
is one of those things, though, isn't it? With writers, and especially writer artists and other artists, it's not just following them, it's knowing the collaborations sometimes of how things work. And there are certain creators where I kind of leave some of their work alone because I kind of concentrate. It's like, oh, it's another team up there, and I'll buy that, but maybe not their own personal bits of work elsewhere. There's a few like that, actually. Just when you get two people that absolutely click together, it makes a big difference.
And clicking, obviously, I mean, in terms of their art, it fits, wonderfully together. I mean, Jay Bone in his own right is a cracking comic book artist. He's done a fair bit of kind of young readers' work. I think some of the kind of DC Cartoon Network sort of books. But he's also drawn the Rocketeer, about 3 books in the Rocketeer series that IDW brought out, where they kind of, they didn't revamp him, they just kind of like reignited him, really. They just started using him again. Continuations, I suppose. He did a book called The Rocketeer Hollywood Horror, which I think was written by Roger Langridge, which is great. And there's lots of old school actual Hollywood characters in there. I think Groucho appears, and I think maybe Douglas Fairbanks or Clark Gable, something like that. That's I love that series. It's brilliant. And J Bone's got a great caricature style. He did the Rocketeer Spirit team up, Pulp Friction, and I think he did a war book as well, Rocketeer at War or something like that. And yeah, he's got a very stylish animated style in his own right that fits right in with, you know, Darwin Cook and Bruce Timm and that kind of style. So it's a real old school, you know, Christmas tale.
I'll say up front, I've actually left DC and Marvel out of my choices.
Oh, good for you.
Because there were so many.
Yeah.
And there's some really funny ones over the years as well. I remember there was an Ultron that was a Santron.
Right.
And it was basically Ultron Santa Claus. There's been a lot, and I think a lot of them are throwaway, but some of them are just too weird that they've, or too funny, or too good that they've kind of endured. But there's a lot that haven't.
Yes, exactly. And I think what I ended up using as my reason for choosing these Christmas stories was there was at heart an interesting comic book artist to talk about. So I think that's the route I've taken. So mine actually are all the three main ones. Oh no, actually no. They're I've got one Marvel, one DC, and it probably won't be a surprise that one Dark Horse.
I know exactly. I deliberately left that one out. So I've actually guessed one of yours, right?
In fact, when I was doing this list, it was like, oh, are you going to go there? Everyone knows ahead of time. I was like, no, I don't care. But I've got two nice artists to talk about before I get onto my soapbox.
Right, I'll do my number 2. And this is the one that just popped in my door only 2 days ago. So it's brand new out now, and it's Hazel and Cha-Cha Save Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
So this is... sorry?
Which cover did you get?
It's the B cover. Hang on, I've got it here.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I got that one. It's the Jim Food cover.
It's you've got this as well, have you? Have you read it?
Yeah.
So I'm trying. Right, okay. I'm gonna have to do, because it's brand new out. I'll try and do spoiler free, but I've got to talk a little bit about it, I guess. It's actually I don't know if you noticed the subtitle. It's Tales from the Umbrella Academy. This is the first of a series they're doing of one-shots.
Oh, okay.
And they just happened to do the Christmas-themed one because it was launching in November, back in November. Okay. So it's time agents Hazel and Cha-Cha of the Temps Aeternalis. It's basically the time agency. And I guess the important thing to state up front is the department has laid down some red tape regarding the use of extreme weaponry. I think that's purely put in there just so they can ignore it within the first couple of pages. And they're promptly dispatched to take out a rogue time agent. The loosely hinged pair completely ignore this new directive and threat of reprimand and go about, well, everything they do really in their usual grace and elegance. But the real threat, it seems, is the greatest lie ever told: Santa Claus. I can't say any more after that, really, because I think with this genre, it's, can you cram as many Christmassy type themes into it whilst still doing a bit of a twist? And I think that's kind of like the format for a lot of these Christmas kind of things. It does vary a lot from the TV show as well. I just wanted to say something about that, really, because a lot of people I know have caught Umbrella Academy on, it was Netflix, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they immediately jump in, start asking me about the comic. Should I jump in? And I guess the comic is a lot weirder, isn't it? And it's a lot more inside a superhero, supervillain universe that you're probably more used to than the TV show. But I really love the TV show. I just think they're completely different beasts. Yeah. Have you watched the TV show, by the way?
Yeah, the whole family has. Yeah.
We loved it, actually. I haven't read any of the comics, but I do think that the TV show actually has some improvements on the comic, despite the fact that it's obviously a streamlined, cut-down version of the comic universe, isn't it? They changed quite a lot, sort of personalities-wise. But I think that the first improvement is Hazel and Cha-Cha, who they don't appear in the comics, do they? They're not in the first run. They're in the second.
They're in the second Dallas, I think, volume. Yeah.
And again, I think they became fan favourites within the comic as well, for who they are. But they are a lot more psychotic, a lot more sweet obsessed, and they rightly became a fan favourite. And they were. I always feel like they used sparingly because of that, slightly, but. The big changes, obviously, with the TV is Cha-Cha is played by Mary J. Blige, which is a complete sex change from the comics. And they're a lot more fleshed out, aren't they, I think, in the TV series. There's backstory. So. I think that the comic is, they're not one-dimensional. Well, they're not one-dimensional, but they're hilariously one-dimensional almost.
Yes. You never see them with their helmets off either, or the masks. Or heads. It's
the kind of Reservoir Dogs kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
The banter, which I think makes them in the comics.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they quite over TV series, but they went a different direction with them. But because of that, that's why I just see them as different beasts. I kind of like both. There was I'm trying to think of all the different changes. Inspector Lupo isn't in the TV, so that's Detective Patch in the TV series, and
that's right.
Not only made it a woman, but also Diego's love interest. And I think that the TV series is a bit more specific, I think, around the commission, as they call it. It's more visualized and it's kind of more structured, and you have that whole 1920s Art Deco.
And it's tied in with a purpose in the TV show a lot more, isn't it? It's to prevent something, whereas it's a little woolier in the comics.
It's kind of vague where it fits in the universe as well, isn't it? Is it godlike, below God, above a god? I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, they're different beasts, but I think that there's so much positives to both of them. They're just different.
Yeah, and I was pleased to see some aspects being at least shown, if not, perhaps fully realised. The fact that you do see Space Boy, at least in some part, as being or having this strange, gorilla body. The fact that, I think some of the powers are, slightly different in the TV show. But it all has, like you say, it's all just got a better purpose, and everyone's got their roles in the TV show. Whereas,
it's streamlined because it has to be, doesn't it? Just to keep viewer interest. And I think it was very well. I think it's just cracking entertainment.
Yes,
I thought
there are some bits. I don't want to be like. A lot of the time, my daughter comes back and she always complains that people don't, like the actor doesn't look enough like the person that she felt they should look like from the book. So for her, it's important if somebody in the book has got blonde hair or is described a certain way, she expects the actor to at least for them to take it on board in the casting. And I did feel that there were some visual bits that I thought were quite easy for them to be able to do in the TV show that it didn't. I couldn't understand why Diego, Kraken. I mean, I can even understand why they don't use the code names, which they are known by their first name in the TV show.
Oh yes, they are. Yeah,
not by their team names in the book, which I can kind of understand. But
I think they wanted to lower the super hero element and make it a bit more grounded, I think.
Yeah,
I like they were the exception, but
they were in a kind of, they were in a team. You do get to see them going out with masks.
Yes, yeah.
It seems an easy fit. If you get anybody who puts a mask on, sort of a name would follow. It seems, but I did miss Kraken's stripy jumper. That was that's his thing, and also when White Violin gets introduced, she just wears a sort of black and white suit.
Yeah, that's
didn't
all.
know why it couldn't at least have been all white. A few little problems.
She goes into a white suit though, doesn't she? The end of the series or not?
Does she? I can't remember.
For the finale,
Maybe.
without giving stuff
maybe.
away. I might have misremembered that. I could have sworn she was.
But
they gave life to Ben though, didn't they? Ben the Ghost is he's mentioned in the comics, isn't he? As
who's that? Sorry,
Ben in the TV series. They've kind of given him as a ghost that can be talked to, whereas in the comics he's kind of mentioned,
still a big mystery.
But left there. So again, you don't know whether it's a case of, you never know how much sort of like Gerard Way's involved in both. So is it a case of the TV show is possibly ideas that he hasn't done in the comics yet, or you never know how much of
I think there's always going to be a slight influence, isn't there? But I think I'd always like the comics to lead. I don't like things to go backwards. I think some of my least favorite things about the Marvel movies are the fact that there's too much come backwards from one arena into the sort of primary source. Comics should remain the primary source, and the lead in sort of just be creative and be wacky, and then some bits will come out and some bits will be translated, and some bits won't. But I don't want it then going backwards back into.
No, I don't either. But I guess they use that sometimes as a conduit to sort of like bring kids into comics. Yeah, because you suddenly get Marvel stuff where Thor looks incredibly like Hemsworth for some reason.
Yeah,
and that kind of freaks me a bit. But
and it just doesn't, it doesn't seem to happen. They do it, but the kids still don't read the comics. So all that the old fogies that are reading comics just get frustrated because they don't want Hemsworth Thor. Cool.
So what's your number 2 then?
I did enjoy that one. Yeah, number 2. This one again, it's a blast from the past. It is Batman Black and White number 3 from 1996. I loved the Batman Black and White series. They had such a lot of very cool artists. They had, Bill Sienkiewicz, and they had Matt Wagner, Klaus Janson, and they had some great, covers by Miller and Alex Toth, people like that. It's a great series. I think they did 2 series of Batman Black and White back in the 90s, and they did do a more recent one, I think maybe like 2014, with some of the more recent artists. I haven't caught up with that one quite yet. But in issue 3, I think it's the first volume, there is a story called A Sleighing Song Tonight, written by Denny O'Neil and a Danish artist called Teddy Christiansen. And I know there's a lot of Batman Christmas stories. I did do a little search just to remind myself what was out there, and you meant like the Ultra on one comes up, and I think there's a Wolverine one, and a lot of them I hadn't read, but they get listed a lot.
There was a lot I hadn't.
Yeah,
I don't remember as well.
There's a lot of Batman ones. I showed Nancy a cover where Batman has got a bag of presents over his shoulders. It looks sort of late 60s, early 70s, maybe. And he's got a bag of presents over his shoulder, full Batman costume with a beard, with a Santa beard, knocking on a door that you can see through cutaway. And I think there's there's a guy with a gun, and I think maybe somebody held hostage behind the door. So there's lots of great Batman stuff that gets referenced, but I hadn't read any of those, and I didn't remember it. But I did remember this one, and it sticks out for lots of reasons. Within Batman Black and White, a lot of the artists, they have very dark stories, very dark in terms of tone, but also they tend to use, there's a lot of black. How the artist explores the black and white medium is always interesting. And Matt Wagner's was very cool because he just used different levels of kind of lettertone or zipper tone or eraser, I think it's called nowadays, just different layers of dots to give different grey tones, but was still absolutely black and white. And in this story, it's very white. The artist Teddy Christiansen picks up on the very, snow-laden story to give. It gives his line work the focus. He's got a very off-kilter style. It's lovely. He's done a lot of I think children's books since, but it looks slightly naive in some ways, but just really dramatic. It's a strange story. It's all looks weird and off kilter by his art, but also it's got a strange tone to Dennis O'Neill, as it's listed here, but his writing as well it's got a really strange tone. And after I read it again, I was wondering, was it weird and off kilter because he knew he was going to be teamed up with Teddy Christiansen, or did he write this strange little weird Batman story and they thought, oh, Teddy Christian would be the perfect
would be the guy for it?
Because even some of the dialogue in it, the only plot synopsis you need to know is Batman tracks down a killer dressed as Santa Claus. So it takes place pretty much all of it on the streets of Gotham. Very big, wide, open, white panels. The main characters are a family, much like Bruce Wayne's when he was younger. Father, mother, quite well to do, with a young girl, and the Santa Claus killer has been contracted to kill all of them. So Batman is on the snowy streets to try and stop this from happening. But some of the dialogue, the little girl shouts at one point, "Look," and the father says, "What do you see, little girl? Maybe a sled and 8 reindeer, or a wonderful Christmas star shining in the east?" "No, the Batman." "Afraid not, sweetie cakes. Batman is what we call an urban myth, like alligators in the sewers." And later on, where's the other one? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So he's following them, making sure nothing happens. And then there's one panel of Batman on a rooftop, and the caption is, "And alone on a rooftop, shivering in the wind, a weirdo in a bat suit." And it all fits with this slightly twisted, slightly, strange artwork, but actually ends up with a very warm ending. It's not, what you expect.
Okay.
It's not this tortured, repeat or whatever. But in fact, Batman ensuring that this little girl has the Christmas, I suppose, that he's been denied. And Teddy Christiansen, it's
of course. Sorry, I only just got that. Yes, it was Christmas, wasn't it? That the Bat was born.
So he's worked on Grendel Tales. He did one issue of Sandman with Neil Gaiman. I think it was towards the end in The Kindly Ones. He did a great book called It's a Bird, written by Stephen T. Siegel, which is it's a book about Stephen T. Siegel taking on the job of writing the Superman comic, and some of the worries he had, I think, of taking on the character, whether he'd be able to do it. And he mixes in some autobiographical details of his family, his relationship with his girlfriend at the time, some family secret. And again, it's brilliant, and his art is fantastic. And something in common with both Darwin Cooke and Teddy Christensen is that they both had issues of a book called Solo, which was a DC comic that came out between 2004, I think, 2006. It was, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be ongoing, but it was essentially, I think the idea came from the DC editor Mark Chiarello, who was an illustrator in his own right. He did, I think, the Houdini Batman Elseworlds, had a great grasp of colour. He was the first colourist on Hellboy. He eventually became DC's art director and was only let go, I think, earlier this year, quite controversially. He seemed to be very well liked in the comic community. But he came up with this idea of essentially giving a 48-page comic, no ads, to an established, strong comic artist.
Right.
Letting them fill 48 pages with the help of other writers. So they had people like number one was Tim Sale, Richard Corbin, Paul Pope, Howard Shakin, Darwin Cooke was in issue 5. That issue won an Eisner. Geordie Benet, Mike Allred, Teddy Christensen's issue was number 8, where he did stories with Neil Gaiman. He does a Dead Man story with Neil Gaiman and Steven Seagal. Scott Hampton, Damien Scott, who was the only one in the run I didn't know. Very graffiti sort of inspired artist. Sergio Aragones and Brendan McCarthy. I think they had more lined up, but it's an amazing run of books. And Darwin Cooke's and Teddy Christensen's are standout. I mean, I love them all. They've never actually managed to get filed. They're that kind of comic. I have certain runs of comics that they stay in a filing cabinet by my that I use as a bedside cabinet, but it's just full of comics, and they're all just full of the comics that I tend to use for inspiration or just
back into.
Yeah, and these comics have never been filed. They've always ended up in one of the drawers.
I've not heard of this run at all. Are they all just independent stories?
They're all just full of usually between probably about 4 or 6, and they're just, some of them are set in the DC universe and a lot of them aren't. In Teddy Christensen's, you have a Dead Man story at the beginning written by Neil Gaiman, which is painted, subdued, similar style to the Batman story. Then you've got something that's a bit more reminiscent, I don't know, has a kind of 20s vibe, a little sort of Russell Patterson pastel, subdued colours. It's about a missionary in Africa. Then it moves into a painted store, a love story. And then we've got, I think it ends on a much more sort of painterly. Oh no, and the last one is written by Teddy Christensen as well. It's a kind of a bit more of a sort of murder mystery in the Arctic. He's gone on to do comics. He's worked with Steven Seagal recently, and he's done children's books in Denmark with his wife. Very unusual, but gorgeous stuff. And I think they're available on Comixology. I mean, like, because I mentioned Darwin Cooke earlier, that's what made me think of this, the fact that they both got an issue. Darwin Cooke's is absolutely incredible because, I mean, he's written, I think, pretty much, he's written all of them as well, illustrated and lettered. There's a Question story in there. There's a Slam Bradley story in there. King Faraday, Batman story. It's just all exquisite stuff. And it's a great intro to some of these artists as well. If you aren't familiar with, Paul Pope or Howard Shakin, it's a great way to get into them as well. But it was it was nice to revisit Teddy Christensen's stuff. Actually, I'd forgotten how striking it was. So I wanted to. I mean, it's shoehorned in really. Instead of talking about Christmas stories, basically talking about how I went looking for a Christmas story, and it reminded me about how good this guy was, and then I pulled out a load of stuff that I'd got that he'd done, and one of them was solo. So that's what I've ended up talking about. But yeah, so it is a great story, and you can't go wrong with Batman Black and White as well. Similar length of story, short stories, written by greats of the industry, drawn by incredible artists, and they fit side by side really with Solo, but Solo's got a lot more genre work and is a lot less DC based, and Batman Black and White, obviously it's all Batman stories, but we've got Brian Bolland, Simon Bisley and Neil Gaiman do a story. It's just a stupid amount of talent in what was a 4-ish miniseries. Yeah.
Cool. I will actually look those up on
Comixology. Yeah, definitely. I think they're all
being sponsored by Comixology. I've said that word about 8 times now.
Yeah. No, it's true. But I mean, it's just one of those. Well, it's also really, the answer to, a lot of the time piracy's come up recently in the comics community, but there are so many books now that are available on Comixology for £1.50, and you can't complain that comics are too expensive when they cost £1.50. No. And you can read them anywhere. It's just.
And then you got things like Humble Bundle as well, which is just fantastic for getting for £12 you can get basically like the entire run of all Red Sonja ever.
Yeah.
From Dynamite, say.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff like that, and it's charity based as well. Yeah, there's lots of cool ways, and again, sometimes you just have to admit that you have a storage problem.
Yes, well, that's true. Half the time, I will end up buying a digital copy because I really can't face going and searching through like the 3 different locations that I've managed to ram my comic boxes, and I can't remember which. The filing system's gone out of the window, so I have some under the cupboard under the stairs. I have some under the in the wardrobe. I've got some.
I went on a genre based intuitive filing system, but of course, looking at like boxes that I know are 20 years old, my intuition is different now from when it was 20 years ago, and I'm just like going, why is this in a box with that?
At some point in the past, I decided to split my collection into the absolutely would not let go and the sort of secondary, at a push, I would get rid of these.
Yeah. And so you've still got them. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, tastes change as well. So suddenly, 20 years later, you're thinking, oh, yeah, I'd love to read that, Frank Robbins' run of Captain America. And then it's you go looking and you don't know which run it's in, because now you really rate Frank Robbins. But I mean, it's a bad example. I've always liked Frank Robbins, but there are some people that I rate more now than I did in the past. Or your curiosity is different, and then you're frustrating. You go back and looking for that one that you've actually lent to somebody as well. There's so many of those times I go back. And I know I had them, but they're not in my collection anymore. So it's easier to buy them. For when they're £1.50, it's like I'd rather pay £1.50 than dig through a ton of box.
I'm glad you picked Batman, actually, because when I was doing the prep for this, I know that there's a lot of Batman Christmas stories. It is an annual thing, and the same goes for, well, I suppose when you're talking about the big publishers, but Batman I always equate with Judge Dredd on that scale.
Yeah,
because there's only a limited number of ways you can jam Christmas into an episode, and there is a lot of crossover. There's a lot of stories that are there's either a villain or a perp that's dressed as Santa Claus doing something, or as a snowman, or as an elf, or there's an entire gang of Santa Claus or elves or snowmen, and all of these have been used between Batman and Judge Dredd so many times. But I was always lukewarm on this kind of stuff. But more and more over the years, I kind of quite like the Christmas sort of like kitsch parody throwaway stuff now, to the point where I'm kind of a bit disappointed if whatever I'm into at the time doesn't do a Christmas type thing, which I really wasn't like that. And that, again, that's why I grabbed the Hazel and Cha-Cha Save Christmas, just because it was something I'm reading Umbrella Academy now. So, it just made me laugh a bit how you change over time, your attitude.
Definitely, yeah. What was now, it's like, my daughter calling something cringy. So it's kind of like you would have definitely thought, the usual, it really was Santa Claus kind of ending.
Yeah.
Back then you'd be like, oh, God. But now it's just kind of...
Similarly, they always, I think part of the genre now is they try and get a twist in it somehow.
Yeah.
A lot of the good ones, there's always a little bit of a twist to it as well, which I like.
Your number one?
Right. My number one. And this is, as I mentioned at the beginning, one that the first time we even mentioned doing something Christmas comic related, this is the first thing that popped into my mind, and it's probably a bit of a weird choice, really. 2000 AD, like I was just saying, it's ripe with Christmas episodes throughout the years. So many dreads, and I think all of them have had a go, and you always get the great Christmas covers as well. But this one really takes me back because it's so old. And it's a Tharg's Future Shock.
Ooh.
And it's one of the Alan Moore ones, and it's One Christmas During Eternity. And I guess there's going to be spoilers in this because I reckon it's so old I can get away with it. Yeah. It's only 2 pages, right?
Okay.
And it was before I even knew who Alan Moore was, but this is just something that stuck with me. And it was Prog 271, I had to look that up. 1982. But I knew that I had a readily available copy of it because I actually I was bought a complete Alan Moore's Tharg's Future Shock compendium, which is a lie, by the way, because it hasn't got them all in. But anyway, so I dug that out. It's not fun. It's not a jolly one, really. It's quite dark. It's just 2 pages long, and I really liked it because it was even back then. I think I realised it was such a neat little short story.
Yeah,
and every panel did something. There was no wastage in it at all. It's just brilliantly compacted down. So it's 2596 AD, and it's Christmas in the Martin household. The immortality tablet has transformed people's lives, but not Christmas. It's still traditional Christmas. We see little Timmy rush down the stairs and tear through his presents as his parents look on in joy. But the day after is sadness, as the man comes in his van to switch Timmy off and take him back to storage, promising him or a similar model again next year. Because with immortality, there can be no more children. It's a really simple one, nice little twist in the last couple of panels, right?
Brilliant.
But I don't know why, it just kind of stuck with me. And it is kind of a bit bleak. It's kind of a nod, I suppose, to not just the problem with immortality, but overpopulation as well. But one of the reasons it stuck with me was 2001. Spielberg released AI, artificial intelligence, and again, it's a little robot boy bringing joy to a family. And the first thing I thought of when that first came out and I watched it was it took me back to that story because it's David is the little boy in the film, but in the comic it's Timmy, and they were the spit of each other.
Right.
So I immediately thought, ooh, is there an inspiration thing? Because there's been lots of films made from 2000 AD inspired stories, should we say. I mean, there's the classic Hardware, isn't there?
Yeah.
That was taken from a Future Shock. But actually, I do know that Artificial Intelligence was based on Brian Aldiss's Super Toys Last All Summer Long. I know that because my sister actually had a copy of that, had a Brian Aldiss compendium that had that story in. Which kind of leads you to Alan Moore, who, although he is regarded as a comic god, he is unfortunately fond of a bit of plagiarism around the time.
Yes.
And of course, because I pulled this out, I had to read it all. And there's some these are classic stories, I think.
Right.
Some of the most the 2000 AD have reprinted these so often. They really have. And I think it's a bit of a nod back to their heyday that they could get people like this doing. You know, he wasn't very famous at the time, Alan Moore.
Who drew it?
I can't remember. It's and I haven't got it on me, unfortunately. Oh, it's the guy that did almost all the Future Shocks. He did so many of them.
Robin Smith? He did a lot, didn't he?
Oh, it could be, actually, yes. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't write the name down.
Right.
No, not Robin Smith, though. Oh, I can't think of his name. It'll come back to me in a minute. Yeah, it's quite shocking, actually, when you start looking into some of these things, how much of the Future Shocks were very, very similar to 70s sci-fi stories. And I think I remember my sister actually pointing one out to me. She said, "Oh, I've got a book with that in." And I as a kid, I was like, very defensive. Like, all right, no, this is 2000 AD. But yes, but one of the other ones in this compendium is A Second Chance, which again is only, I think it's 2 or 3 pages. And it's basically, the short of it is Armageddon, war, and you're left with one man, one woman. The man is called Adam, you know that. And then he finally meets another woman, so the human race is saved, it can continue. They're the last people alive. So the whole joke is it's Adam and in this case, Mavis. That's the joke, right? That's the whole build-up to it, right? Wow. There is, the day after Doomsday was a strip in DC's House of Secrets, 1970. And it's not just the same story, right? Panel by panel, it's the same.
Cool.
Different artist, obviously, but it's just, there is no denying it's the same. It's a man stumbling over wreckage. Panel 2, it's a man picking up some wreckage. Same pose, everything. And the only difference is the original, it was Adam and Gertrude. The punchline is all it changed. It's like, and I have to give a nod because I read an article about this a while ago, and I can't remember whose blog it was, but he made a really good point that he was being paid peanuts for this, and he had to come up with an amazing sci-fi story with a big twist. They're quite hard to write. And I guess at the time, you say at the time you could get away with this stuff because there was no such thing as the internet.
Yeah.
What he didn't realise was in like 30 years' time, everything was digitized, everything was read by everyone, and you are going to get people who obsess over this stuff and would actually spot these things and then do a detailed analysis of everything. Because, you know, when he wrote this, it was for a British audience. I'm sure the DC comic probably had almost zero impact in Britain. It was, you know, it would have been sold freely in America and probably very limited over here at that time. So no crossover. But yeah, he has been a naughty boy before.
Well, that was the problem on Watchmen, wasn't it? That Len Wein knew that the reference point of the Twilight Zone story that was very similar to the denouement in Watchmen. And I think it was a bit of a sticking point until Alan Moore actually just I think, wrote a reference to the source material into Watchmen, didn't it? It's kind of like, almost. I know it. We know this is out there, but this is. I mean, the very fact that the starting point for Watchmen itself was another comic company's characters that you've built a new version of. It's built on top.
But I see that as part of the mythology. I didn't see that as plagiarism as such.
No, but it's all adaptation of existing source material to a certain.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got your one story gets turned into another story. The characters have another layer on them, and then at the center of that story is a story from another medium. So it's.
I have actually stopped myself from reading any articles about the alleged plagiarism of DR and Quinch.
Oh, right. I didn't know there was an issue.
Based on some National Lampoon characters that were also, it was the same thing. It was like 2 letters and it almost sounds like DR and Quinch. I've not read it, so I don't know, because I don't want DR and Quinch spoiled.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a childhood memory that, no, you're not having that.
Yeah. No,
don't want to know.
It is interesting, yeah.
Actually, in the compendium I've got Future Shocks, there is a masked character called Rorschach in there as well. Again, the same article I was reading pointed out. It was like, I've read that so many times and I've never spotted that. So I am going to. It was one of the things I had on my list tonight. Was I was going to pull through it again. I know which story it's in now, so I'm going to try and find it. But
yeah, I mean, the Future Shocks and the other ones he did was the Time Twisters, wasn't it? But,
yes, and Albernard Snaz, or whatever his name was. Well, that was part of Time Twisters, wasn't it?
There was one Time Twister I remember. I think it might have been drawn by Dave Gibbons, where it gave you immense pleasure because it was 2 cops doing a case, but they would revisit different points that they were in during the court. They would visit the same scene.
And it was a parody of the old
Dragnet.
TV cop show, Dragnet. Yes, yeah, I think that's in the compendium as well.
Oh, I remember being so impressed because once you'd read the story, you could go back and spot them sometimes at least 3 times in different panels because they'd revisited
so clever,
the same.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
It's superb. Okay, my number 1. I'm sure everyone will be absolutely stunned by my choice. Not. It is, of course, the amazing Hellboy. I know. Who'd have thought it? They actually started in 1997. It was the first and the only Christmas special. They've since been rebranded as winter specials. But the first one was 97, and it features a great Hellboy story by Mignola. But this was before the universe started to expand and the characters started moving into their own series. So it's before BPRD got its own series. So the other stories in there, they're fun, but they're not connected to the great Mignola universe. So Steve Purcell, who was the creator of Saam and Max, he did a story. I think it's based on Christmas toys. And Gary Gianni did a Monster Men story. I mean, Gary Gianni's got a lovely style. He has done a standalone Hellboy graphic novel since then. He's still working with Mignola. But he's got a lovely, scratchy kind of engraving sort of style. And then Jeff Darrow did a big sort of double-page spread gallery piece in it. But it's great. It's got it's got some lovely comics in there, but it's only got the one sort of Hellboy story for for that kind of connective tissue. But then in 2016, the winter specials kick off, and so in 2016 we get Tim Sale joins. It's got a Tim Sale cover. We get Tim Sale drawing a shamanic tale from the early Hyperborean period. It's snowing, so it counts. It's really the only connection to Christmas. There's a guy with who's got a whole load of shaman skulls chained to his body with glowing eyes, but it's snowing, so that's okay. Then we've got a BPRD 1953 story. Again, it's snowing, so we're in Wyoming in November, which explains why it's snowing. This is a story of Chinese laborers that were murdered and some Chinese demon ghosts coming back to recover the body. But like I mentioned earlier, the first panel it's snowing, so it's okay. Now we get into it. Here we go. And this fits in with what you're talking about in terms of those kind of fun Christmas stories. We've got snowmen monsters. Hellboy wearing some sort of Dealey Bopper reindeer headgear. He and a teenage Liz Sherman end up... she runs off into the woods because she's a teenager and ends up finding a group of very strange snowmen all in a ring together that eventually, after chucking a few snowballs at Hellboy, they become monstrous. They've got these sort of tendrils coming out of their mouth. They all have glowing red eyes and sharp teeth. It turns out that they've been brought to life by snowgeists, which everyone knows. Snowgeists. Here we go. Here's the actual dialogue from the issue. They're parasites. They crawl inside unattended snowmen and take possession like crabs taking over empty shells. The bit I like about that is they crawl inside unattended snowmen. So if you stand by your snowman all winter, then you're fine. They won't get any snowgeists inside them. But that's written by Chelsea Kane with art by Michael Avon Oeming. So that's a proper fun Hellboy story. That's in the 20.
Because I was late to Hellboy, I've been buying the compendiums as you know, going along, and I'm about to start on the BPRD stuff. But I did start buying the winter specials since they came out.
Yeah.
And I do like them. And they would have been in my list, but I just thought, what's the point? It's like, I've got to give that to Pete.
You knew. To be honest, my very first thought was, oh, well, I don't need 3. You know, there's been about 5 Hellboy winter specials. I can just, and I thought it might be quite funny if you went, what's your number 3, Pete? And I would go, yeah, Hellboy Winter Special 2016. What's your number 2, Pete? Hellboy Winter Special 2017. Although actually, the best one is the middle one. The best one is the 2017 Hellboy Winter Special. We get a Mignola cover on this one, which there aren't many, but I think that's he only writes one story in this one, which is actually a Happy New Year story. It's got a Ben Stenbeck. It's got Ben Stenbeck art, and it's a story of soul trading seances and frog imps. So, but set in New York, it's snowing. But it's a gorgeous story. There's a corpse that's spent 200 years in a pond appears at seance. So what's not to love? Then we get probably the best story, which is Fabio Moon and Gabriel Barr, who did is it 1 or 2 runs in BPRD? They did little offshoot sort of stories. This is the BPRD Vampire series that they both worked on. They would alternate art according to where the story happened, whether it was happening in a kind of side realm or the actual BPRD universe. So they would tend to swap who was drawing what. but they have a vampire tale featuring a more pagan side of the season. So you've got people, you've got some sort of little set in 1954. You've got some shamanic types wandering into the woods trying to perform some sort of winter ceremony and getting disturbed by real spirits in the form of real woodland spirits who take the form of a stag, a fox, a bear. Fabio Moon does most of the art with a final page by Gabriel Barr, but it's fab, it's gorgeous. And then it ends with Tonsi Zonjic giving us a gang-busting Lobster Johnson adventure. It's set in New York in 1930, and one of Lobster Johnson's crew wears a Santa outfit, and it's snowing. So that counts. But he's wrote and drew the Lobster Johnson story, so it's nice because you end up with this flavour of an old annual. You end up with, it's not just, even though it's called the Hellboy Winter Special, you end up with usually a good cross section of what now has become, a great many characters. The 2018 book has a Mignola and Chris Robertson doing a sort of Witchfinder Black Flame tale that's got a little more of a Cthulhu flavour. Then we've got The Visitor with Paul Grist doing a kind of Frankensanta sort of story. And then we've got Sebastian Fumara doing the art on a BPRD tale. And then, of course, there is going to be one out this year. There's going to be a winter special in 2019, which I think is going to be a continuation of... We got 2 books last year. We got the Eisner Award-winning Hellboy Krampusnacht, which was Mignola teaming up with Adam Hughes. And, I'm pretty much only aware of Adam Hughes' cover work, really. I mean, I looked up to see what he's done sequentially. And I don't think I've read any of his sequential work. I think he's done quite a lot of Star Wars work, which I've not really read the Star Wars comics, but it's gorgeous internal pages. It's
Star Wars I know him from, and it's very nice.
He's obviously he's done the color as well. So it is absolutely amazing. And the Krampus is the creepiest version of the Krampus that I've ever come across.
See, I had money down myself for you. I thought that's what you were going to pick for your number one. Actually, was the Krampus one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the end, I decided to do all of them just because, I absolutely loved the 2017 one, the Fabio Moon and Gabriel Barr story. But this one, which I'm pretty sure they're kind of revisiting, it won an Eisner as well. I think it won the Eisner. It must have been 2018.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gorgeous stuff. It's creepy as hell. And like I say, it's an end of year celebration with, you're guaranteed some of your favourite characters.
It is something to look forward to, isn't it? It's almost, and I love that it's a winter special because the things you loved was always the summer specials for 2000 and stuff. I just love the fact that it's got that kind of something you look forward to. Aspect that it's a winter one.
Yeah, I found it strange that in American comics, their annuals came out in the summer because an annual was always something that I always associated with Christmas.
Christmas, yeah.
You'd get your hardback.
Absolutely is for Britain, but nowhere else, I think.
You would get your annual, much like you'd get your advent calendar out, and you'd get a different annual, and everyone would tend to, usually get the same one, or whether it was even a family one. I know Non's family would get the Rupert the Bear annual for everyone every year. And that those annuals were always, different mix of stories. But they really nailed it with the winter specials. They have such incredible artists, and sometimes it's one of the kind of series artists that you know and are guaranteed, like Ben Stenbeck, who I absolutely adore his stuff. I think he's doing a new Frankenstein book in the spring. The last one was it Underground, and now I think the next one's Frankenstein Unbound. So I just love the fact that they revisit these, and I really don't mind if the only Christmas element is it snowing.
Yeah,
a lot of them have that haunted house feel and flavour, which I didn't realise until quite late that and I always remember none always associated a ghost story with Christmas, but I was quite late in my life before I realised that ghost stories for a lot of people were a part of Christmas.
Yes.
But that for me now, these Hellboy winter specials kind of fit that slot, definitely.
The Hellboy board game we both did the Kickstarter for.
Yep.
I don't know if they're getting into a bit of a run now of they are releasing a couple of one-off miniatures every now and then.
Yeah.
Eye-wateringly expensive resin miniatures. But last year was Hellboy in a Santa outfit.
Yeah,
with a huge sack of presents sort of overflowing. It's the Krampus this winter.
Ooh,
it's a nice miniature, but like I said, eye-wateringly expensive.
Yeah.
It's not necessary for the board game, but as a collector, I might actually do that one. But yeah. And funnily enough, Krampus is. It's become a bit of a thing in our household now. Do you know?
Right.
You know, as a family, you have certain films, right?
Yeah.
That you sort of associate with Christmas and stuff. And we have I think I've already mentioned, we have a weird New Year tradition of a zombie film.
Yes.
Right. Well, for Christmas, we've started. I only ever saw It's a Wonderful Life a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I've known that there's this big thing over in America and all. It's kind of snuck into our tradition now. But the other one is a horror film called Krampus. And I urge you to get this out. You have to find it. It's a comedy horror. But it's kind of it was an instant cult classic when it came out. So it's not really widespread known, but it is genuinely funny in bits, and it's just a Christmas movie still.
Brilliant.
But with Krampus. So that's kind of become part of our tradition now as well. So
I always try and sneak in a Shane Black movie at Christmas. I think we usually choose. I think it'll usually end up having a case. Being able to put a case for a Christmas movie each, but I love the fact that most Shane Black movies have some kind of Christmas connection, no matter how spurious it might.
I was going to say they're a bit tenuous sometimes, but they're there.
Oh, so much. I think there's one, isn't it? It might be. Is it A Long Kiss Goodnight or something like that? Where I think there's a Christmas drawing on the fridge. I think that's pretty much the only nod towards Christmas. But yeah. The Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or Nice Guys is two of my favourite. Okay, so honourable mentions.
Ooh, I probably covered them as I went along. I think actually,
I've got one. This was another one I hadn't got this one out for a long time, but I did persevere and dig the physical copy out of my boxes, and this is Sin City Silent Night from 1995, which it's early in the run of Sin City. It's funny to look back at the early stuff and see its sort of beginnings. Really, I mean, it's still stark, but it's less, chiseled as the later stuff became.
Yeah.
But the impressive thing, here's some, I suppose you could call them stats. Here's some, this sums up Sin City Silent Night. 29 panels across 24 pages with 3 sound effects, 1 speech balloon, and no colour. It doesn't even have the name of the book or creator on the cover. In fact, it doesn't have...
It's an exercise in minimalism, isn't it?
Yeah. The only text is the price on the back cover. You know, there is... and even inside, actually. Yeah, it ends with a title page at the very end. But that's it. There's a letters page. But yeah, so it's big, it's bold, it's black and white. You know, it happens in a snowstorm, so it counts. And it's not necessarily a very Christmassy tale. It does involve a child being rescued, but yeah, it's gorgeous stuff. And you know, it is amazing to see something that, you know, uses, I wouldn't say so little, because obviously he's using every bit of his cartoonist skills, but when you actually look at it in those kind of terms, it's quite impressive. It is quite amazing.
There was one that I wasn't sure whether it was one that you might have or not, but it's just something I've heard of and I've never read it, and that is Santa the Barbarian.
All right, no, I haven't read that.
It kind of comes up a lot when people sort of like compile lists of this, that, and the other. Not necessarily about Christmas, but about sort of niche comics, should we say? And I think it was only a single issue, but everyone just sort of seems to think that it's really good fun and stupid. I've never ever read it, so yeah, I couldn't find it on anywhere. So I'm not sure if I've got the name right or not, but I'm pretty sure it's called Santa the Barbarian. But anyway, that was what I wasn't sure if it was something that you might
have to look it up myself.
Right, Anna, we are contractually obliged as well to join in with Ian and Nicky's comic of the year as well. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
This year's choice. Again, odd one for me, really. My choice was Undiscovered Country, of which there's only 2 issues so far. The main writers are Scott Snyder and Charles Soule. It's one of these where, unusually for a comic, there was a lot of build-up before it came out. I think they're big names and they put out a lot of review copies, I think, and a lot of big artists went a bit overboard, I think, possibly on the pre-promotion stuff. But it kind of got me intrigued enough to sort of like say, yeah, I'll definitely stick that on the pull list, because it was an oversized first issue as well, which I'm a sucker for. And although Scott Snyder and Charles Soule are the writers, they're only the main writers, because the artists Giuseppe Camuncoli and Daniele Orlandini actually input a lot into the story as well, apparently. And it's, I guess from a lot of the promotion work they did beforehand, it's a real labour of love, this, for them. It's something they've had in their mind for a long time, something they wanted to get on paper for a long time. And it evolved quite a lot from what they were originally thinking they were going to do to what they did do. And the reason I'm choosing it, really, I mean, if I'm truthful, Blade Runner 2019 has probably been the series I've enjoyed most this year.
Okay.
I've really loved that because it's been so sympathetic to its origins. But I'm going to go with this one because I just feel it's got such potential to build and build. And I suppose, given who's involved, I just got a bit of faith in it, and I think it's going to possibly be a big thing. The synopsis is: our world is crumbling, it's weakened by wars, slowly dying from the sky virus. The world's been split into 2 main warring blocks or factions, and that's the Pan-Asiatic Prosperity Zone and the Euro-Afrique Alliance. And then you have America. Well, America's nowhere to be seen. They convinced themselves of the upcoming threat of environmental disaster and war, and they closed their borders, literally with huge coastal walls. About 30 years ago, put up a huge defensive shield, and nobody has heard from them since. Blocked all outside communications. So, after 3 decades of silence, there's a coded transmission on an official channel offering the world a cure to the Sky virus in the hope that it would make the world a better place and that America can open its doors once more. So it kind of kicks in immediately. Helicopter ride going in towards this defensive wall and shield of America. And it's the band in the helicopter is a couple of military dudes. There's representatives from both the Alliance and the zoners, and there's doctors and some cultural experts. The cultural expert on America isn't even in his 30s, I don't think. So it's like a historian about like a lost tribe almost, because he would never know it. Some of them actually, were old enough to have been born and left America, and they're going in to secure a cure. They go in on the correct coordinates, and immediately as they pass through the defensive wall, they get shot down and find themselves in a post-apocalyptic landscape, I guess is the best way to describe it, with the absolutely stunning visual of being charged by what looks like an army of Tusken Raiders on acid, riding giant mutant creatures.
Hey.
And that's the kind of stuff I like. It had the vibe of, like Escape from New York and stuff with the closed off community, which I think I've done an episode on that as a genre, because there's so many films and comics that have used that idea. But it's more of a Lost World thing, which I'm an absolute sucker for. Love Lost World, and it's kind of got that pulp feel. Again, the latest Skull Island movie. Of all the things that's wrong with the movie, the idea and the concept is absolutely my cup of tea.
Oh, completely.
Absolutely. I just love that kind of thing. And it's just full of mystery. It never explains too much, which is good. It's not simplistic in how the world got there. There's gaps in the timeline. So far in the issues, they're kind of like in the back, they've got a timeline that they're filling in as you learn about it, which is quite a nice little concept. But there's enough gaps and mentions of this, that, and the other that you can see that it's a lot more complex. They've put a lot of thought behind politics and what got you here. And again, the first issue had some lukewarm reviews, I think, because a lot of people want everything from a first issue, and I don't think you can do that. And I like the fact that they kind of the character backstory is almost nothing. You don't know what's going on, but some of them seem to know each other. That's not important. It's the action, setting, action, and then from the second issue, we're now going into backstories, and I like the way it's jumping, back and forth as well.
It's almost you just really want to generate interest in that.
Yeah, and
are you interested in this story? You don't. You don't have to tell them everything.
Too many questions, and I love that. And a lot of people don't. I get that.
Yeah,
I want more questions, and as it goes on, I want more questions and questions and questions, and I still want the ratio to be more unanswered than answered. Yeah, that's a personal preference. But
Westworld. I mean, Westworld was a great way, and Watchmen to a certain extent, has left you just baffled. But
you have to work through the bafflement, don't you?
But there's enough. That's the thing. There are some shows that get too baffling without the interest staying
without
there.
The satisfaction, ever being returned. But
you got to juggle your bafflement with your satisfaction. Yeah, definitely. But I like to be baffled. Yeah,
it's really cinematic. This seriously, to the point where it's like, I think that they've got high hopes for this. when you actually do cinematic visuals and pacing, then I think it probably would be very good and easy to transfer. I mean, it's just the script as well. They're very good at using trigger phrases that give a nod to current political climate, shall we say. I mean, it's obviously a lot to do with isolationism versus collectivism, and obviously, the eco issues are quite up there. But it's quite easy to sort of like make that step to sort of like the Make America Great and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of commentary about America's role before it shut its borders and that kind of thing. It's interesting. It's got the right little phrases here and there to make you think, oh, this is bigger than what's on the pages. And so it's a bit of a punt. If this turns out to be rubbish next year, I'm going to have to completely deny this. But at the moment, it's looking really good. And I hope there's going to be something big.
No, I haven't bought it yet, but it's one of those books you feel, you're not going to be able to not read to a certain extent. It's a bit like Saga and, I don't know, Paper Girls. To a certain extent, there are some books that get talked about so much that I mean, with Paper Girls, I did wait until it was collected. So I think
as well.
I thought that I might do that with this, but picking it up digitally, I might do that. That sounds good.
I think it'll be 3 or 4 issues until we know.
Yeah,
but it has that feel from the offset. But I'm also a sucker for hype, so I might have been brainwashed as well.
No, it did sound like you say. I instantly thought Escape from New York and sort of Mad Max with a bit more of a kind of cursed earth kind of.
There's
vibe.
A lot of Mad Max visuals in it actually. Whilst I like the way that there's also quite a bit of a contrast between some of the items that are out in the wasteland. It's a bit Land of the Lost as well.
Okay, best of the year. I mean, it's always a bit tough. I mean, I did, because I'd gone sort of quite mainstream with the Christmas ones. I wanted to make sure I went for something smaller. Well, not for that, but it is one of my favourite books of the year. But just before I do get to that, honourable mentions for 2 books that I have really enjoyed this year. Jason Aaron's Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, that was high up for me.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been I've really enjoyed how he pieced a long tale across different periods of his life. And one of the best sort of Conan the King stories I've read, I think, was.
I have to ask: Did you do the same as me and just subscribe to everything with Conan in the title?
I didn't, fully enough. Because I've been a bit disappointed with Savage Sword, so I picked up the first.
That's the middling one.
Yeah, I like Ron Garney's.
Good.
The which one?
I didn't. There was a little.
Yes, I didn't get that actually, but it might be something I pick up in trade. I got some of the Savage Avengers, and I wasn't really, feeling that.
I'm sticking with that at the moment. I hope that overall it'll. I've also no idea if is that just a continuing title now?
I think so. Yeah, I think, and they brought another one.
Not too many of those on the go.
Yeah, they brought another one out, haven't they? Was it Eternal Serpent or something?
I think that's
teamed up with Moon Knight or something.
Yeah, that's a limited though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've really enjoyed Conan the Barbarian, and of course Criminal, which restarted again, I think in January. Has run all through the year. It is something I genuinely get excited about a book that you have to go and pick it up straight away that week. Some weeks I can't make it, but then there are other weeks it's like no matter what, if it's a Mignola drawn book or a Love and Rockets or Criminal, then I kind of have to go and pick it up, and it has been just stunning. But the book I've chosen, and he is a great friend of mine, but Nick Prolix's Slang Pictorial he kickstarted number 4 this year. Kickstarted it in March, I think. So it maybe got delivered in July, but it's on issue 4 now, and it's going from strength to strength, you know, from its start, and I love it. It's so well done. The stories are building in a slow and compelling way, and it's not through, you know, we were just talking about, you know, almost like puzzle writing or gaps. It's building really with characters, you know, and that's what I love from the BPRD side of things. And they're spreading into their own little worlds and strips in a similar way to BPRD, really. He'll pull out a character. So there's an actor character that's sort of got pulled out, and a jazz musician. So you'll see them in their own little worlds and get a view of what's happening in their own lives. And then they actually appear in the central tale as well. And it's clever, it's interesting, and it's the main reason is it's unique, which is so hard to do in comics. And I might be wrong, but I don't really know of any other comic like Slang Pictorial. It's got that 60s kitchen sink drama sort of vibe to it. So I always think of Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, really, as a touchstone. Is it That Sporting Life, sort of Richard Harris? There's an era of cinema that I think obviously has influenced it. But it's a strange little thing all on its own. But because it's so, I can't really get past unique. But I just love the fact that it is just so of itself, you know. And I just haven't read enough small press. But to find, you know, something that's carved something so different from everything else I read to a certain extent as well, you know.
It's nice because I think that's the hardest kind of writing as well.
Yeah.
Undiscovered Country, by the way, I should say, has absolutely nothing new in it.
Right.
It's just done really well.
Yeah.
There's it's tied in lots of sort of tropes and stuff like that, which you've heard before, but I think it's going to become more unique in its history of how they got to where they are. But to actually write something absolutely unique, it's one of the hardest things. And doing a slow build up through characters is the hardest balance, I think.
Yeah. Between
losing your audience because it's just disappearing up the characters rather, but progressing enough and then doing a core story to tie it together. I think that's really clever writing.
It is, you know, to be able to do something and have an interest and a point across stories where, you know, you're not dealing with fantastic world-shattering events. You're just dealing with, you know, a lot of the time this is, people living their lives and, you know, chatting with their neighbours and going about their business. But there are enough hints and setups that there's, there's worry and there is danger, that there's something potentially, brewing. And that gives it, there's an air of menace, especially to the main character, which I tried to pick up when I did a postcard for his Kickstarter. I wanted him to look a little menacingly in my postcard. So yeah, it's fab. If listeners haven't picked up on Slang Pictorial, go and visit Nick Prolix's shop. He's, like I say, there's 4 there, but it's a lovely little thing that's brewing in its own pace, and it's fab. Really, really good.
It's been a good year, I think.
It's been fab.
For me, I feel it's been a brilliant year for comics.
Very much so.
It's been great for those comics that you the indie ones that challenge you a little bit more. And I have to say, it's been a great year for my guilty pleasures, I'd probably say, which don't sort of they don't expand the comic art world any, but things like Aliens, Colonial Marines, the junk comics. Do you know what I mean? It's been a big year for guilt, the sort of like guilty pleasure stuff for me. Which you can't. I couldn't wax lyrical about. Oh, this is fantastic because this. There's like, no, it's Marines, it's Aliens. I love it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't care.
Yeah, totally. Which has been great. Yeah, with Conan coming back, and more and more genres, I think, getting explored. But I am reading less and less Big Two, and much more.
Wow, it's gone straight down for me completely. Yeah. I've dropped a lot of titles that I always used to. At the very, very minimal, I'd have X-Men on my pull list.
Yeah.
I don't have them even anymore. I'm buying occasionally I'll go and buy a trade back because I've heard something good about it, or it's got somebody I like drawing it. But it's amazing how you pull away sometimes.
I do follow creators. I mean, so if I'm a little behind, like I found out that James Haru, who used to draw Rumble, actually he's not doing anything too regularly. He must be probably working in another series up at the moment. But I found out he did, I think it was an 8-page Captain Carrot strip in a DC summer title. They're doing these kind of big 80-page giants again, or page Walmart ones. But I think it was called, it was a summer special. I can't remember what it's called. But luckily, the comic shop still had a copy, and it's a big old tome. There's some nice stuff in there, but I only bought it for that James Haru Captain Carrot strip. It was absolutely brilliant. I absolutely loved it. So I tend to, and he popped in. I think he did some pages in the first issue of Deceased, the sort of DC Zombies sort of strip, and I had no interest in that, but I bought it because he'd done a few pages in it. And sometimes you might see an ad or pick up on something in there that, looks interesting. There's a Steve Pugh young adult sort of Harley Quinn book that I think I'll probably end up picking up at some point.
I mean, there's the new Harley series that came out, isn't there?
Yeah, Harley.
Stepan, what's his face, did it?
Right.
The guy that did Sunstone. I really wanted that, but I missed the first issue, so I've ended up. I'm just going to buy the collected in February. I think it's out.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of looking forward to that because I do like his style.
Yeah,
I love it.
But yeah, I do feel quite out of touch, I think, with the Big Two. But there's plenty to keep us occupied. Let's face it. Brilliant. All right. Well,
we have to end with wishing everyone a happy Christmas.
Happy Krampus Day. We've missed that. Yes. To all our listeners, may you get all the comics under the tree that you deserve. And thanks for listening this year. So we will be continuing next year.
I believe that there's going to be some panels from the festival as the first episode of the new year. I think that was the idea.
Right.
So we'll be back shortly after that. No idea if we're doing our respective normal bits or whether we'll get together for a mutter down again soon.
Oh, definitely.
Or even a roundup of the year, who knows. But it's been a good year for the podcast as well. So thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot. You can find me at thismanthispete on Instagram and Twitter, or contact me and find links to my comics at thismanthispete.com. And Mike?
My ramblings are normally found on Twitter at CthulhuPunk, which is always a nice, difficult word to spell if you're not into Cthulhu mythos.
Nice one. Thanks, everyone. Yak soon.
Cheers. Till next time.
This is Tom from That Comic Smell podcast, bringing you the small press section of the Comic Art Festival podcast, Small Pressed. Thought I'd do something a wee bit different this time around and just do like my year in review, because this has been one hell of a stellar year for small press comics. This year I started to do these small press reviews for the Comic Art Festival podcast. I was asked if I could come on to do them by the lovely team here, and I cannot thank them enough. I will never ever be able to thank them enough for everything they've done by giving me a platform to talk about comics on. People have passed on their books to me, people have recommended stuff and everything. It's just been absolutely fantastic, and I cannot thank everybody enough. So I just wanted to sort of cap up a couple of the ones that I've done throughout the year. I mean, since starting doing this, we've done 13 different small press reviews, and I could have done so many more. There were so many books that we could have spoken about. Sidewinding Beat by John I, Asleep in the Back by Tim Bird, Don't Judge Me, the Penguin collection by Alan Henderson, Hello Dolly, the little limited edition thing from John Tucker, The Price by David B. Cooper, which is still ongoing as we speak, The Black Iris by Russell Mark Olson, which has now been nominated and in the running for Best Small Press or Indie Title of the Year by Pipe Dream Comics, which you can go vote for now. The absolutely incredible and ongoing series that is Sarararara Olivia Hicks, who is also behind one of the greatest titles with our partner in crime, Emma Osterhaus, of Grand Saam Romance, which was just unbelievable. Totally blew me away this year. And just Olivia just continues to take strides with her work. It's just incredible. Lost Light by Claire Spiller. I visited other things that necessarily didn't even come out this year. I just visited them to make sure that more people heard about them. Peace of Mind by Grimm Comics. Stutter by Joe Stone. The Horror Chronicles that came out by Tony Esmond, showing that Tony's writing brought out something that stirred up a lot of emotion. Glass Hood by Matt Garvey. I mean, a little tangential kind of sequel-esque thing to his award-winning comic from last year, Pipe Dream award-winning comic from last year. Another one that was on the Pipe Dream top 10 list. And the Glass Hood just showing that there's incredible writing and beautiful art that's out there as well within small press that makes it look like it's competing with the big boys. And wrapping up my year of small press reviews, the absolutely incredible continuation and conclusion to the series, Death Inc. It was book 3 by Charles H. Raymond. This has been an absolutely stellar year. When I'm running through these titles, I'm looking at it going, my God, this has just been unbelievable. I mean, there's been other titles that have come from other writers and artists and everything within that list as well. I mean, John Tucker's been smashing them out left and right. I know Claire Spiller's currently working on something else as well. Olivia just continues to put out Sarara, but is also putting out work here, there and everywhere. Peace of Mind issue 3 was coming out. I mean, these people are still smashing out these titles and comics, and the small press comics community is just growing and growing and growing. It's unbelievable, and it's been so amazing to sit and talk about it. I cannot believe that I'm getting the opportunity to sit and speak about these books. There's been Comic Scene Awards that have been acknowledging small press. There's been the Pipe Dream Comics, small press and indie comics in the UK. Actually, do you know what? The top 10 that you can vote for just now on Pipe Dream Comics is The Black Iris, Cry Wolf Girl, Earworm, Gun, The Legend of Mariposa, Manu, The Plot, Stand in Your Power, Sentient, and XYZ. Unbelievable. But there has literally been so many great books to come out from so many amazing writers and artists that to sit and list them would just be impossible. You'd be here all day. And that is how much we are growing. It's just unreal. I mean, we've got stuff from there's new things that are popping up in the Comic Scene magazine. I mean, there's First Spark Books have been putting out more and more all ages comics from folks. I mean, there's been the emergence of Comics Eurasia, who are translating comics into French and Spanish. As Gustavo Vargas has just become this massive name in the small press scene at the end of the year. Barking from Lucy Sullivan, showing that Unbound have got loads of work that are coming out of it as well. There's been endless amounts of podcasts and everything that are coming out and showing what kind of work there is within the community, within comics in general. I mean, I've even noticed that the British comics scene has changed entirely. I mean, the mainstream comics that have come out have been little to none, really. I mean, they have come out, don't get me wrong, 2000 AD are still putting them out, Rebellion still pumping out books here and there, and Beano, and there's still Commandos coming out here and there, which is great. But I just think they've been so overshadowed by this ginormous small press and independent scene. Even like your sort of up-and-coming publishers and everything as well, that maybe weren't as big the past couple of years. They've been around, but they've not been as big the past couple of years. I mean, this year they've just been put on a platform. It's unbelievable. Loads of people diving into webcomics as well. People that have never even thought about it before. I mean, even David Robertson was putting out his Bell Time this entire year. Like I say, Sararara was still coming out completely solidly throughout the year. There's Slug Cafe comics coming up. There's been people doing like little diary things here and there, like Christina Chapman and Rachel Smith still putting out stuff. All these people just coming up and up and up, and it's just unbelievable. This has been such a good time for comics. And yet, there has been negatives, don't get me wrong. There's been stuff that could have probably been weeded out, and amongst that, I think with everything that's been going on in the world at the minute, I think comics can kind of get lost in amongst that. But we also forget that comics are a massive escape for everybody, as well as touching on real life issues and everything as well. There's been negative things that have happened in amongst there, but we have to remember that, you know, it's just to see these people coming up and doing these things, and then everybody's jumping on board and really supportive. That's been one of the main things, has been showing the level of support that people have been given to these people that are doing these comics within just their own homes. You know, they're doing it in their spare time, and the level of encouragement that they're getting to keep going is just absolutely amazing. You really need to get out there and get yourself immersed in the indie comic scene. A great place to start is Comic House, because there is so many people putting stuff on Comic House, and they are actually given the platform and showcase to show off the talents of so many different artists. But even then, if you take a look at even just like the comics hashtag on Instagram or Twitter, this independent and small press scene is just unreal. And it's great to see everybody, all the shows and everything, like the Lakes and Thought Bubble and everything, and see them all banding together and everybody really supporting each other around there as well. It's just amazing. And I have been so chuffed to be able to speak about it. And I look forward to 2020. I cannot overstate enough how much I'm looking forward to seeing what people come out with in this coming year. 2020 is going to be a complete game changer for indie and small press comics. I just want to take this chance to say thank you to everybody for listening and for supporting not only the reviews that I've been doing, but for supporting the Comic Art Festival podcast as well. These guys do such a great job. They champion the comic scene, just everyone, from your big names to the smallest person starting out in their bedroom. And honestly, the scene is all the better for it. So a massive thank you to them for letting me chat and for giving us all this amazing content and for bringing comics to more and more people. So Nikki, Ian, Pete, Mike, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening. You are incredible. Now go and enjoy some comics. Just get out there and discover, explore. And if you've found some and you would like to pass along the recommendations, you can find me on Twitter at URAMYX, or across at the That Comic Smell Twitter and Instagram at That Comic Smell. Just pass them along, or if you're looking for some recommendations, get in touch. I can pass some stuff along. Let me know what you're into, and we'll see if we can match something up. That'd be amazing. I'd love to get chatting to folk about the absolutely wonderful art that is comics. And I will see you in the new year for more and more 2020 incredible comics. See you later, folks. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
There we go. Right. I want to mention a few films that we've been watching recently.
Okay.
First, since it's Christmas and all that.
Christmas.
Klaus on Netflix.
Oh,
How gorgeous was that?
that was lovely. You didn't want to watch it.
No, I didn't want to watch it.
No, I put it on because I like Christmas.
The art style, first of all,
You don't like different art styles that's at Disney,
No,
do
I
you?
do.
No, you
No,
don't.
that's wrong.
No, you're bad. Don't point your finger at me. I'll point my finger at you.
That's very much wrong. I just don't like. I can't think which of the company that do those films. But I'm not a fan of them. But this was beautiful.
You're a snob sometimes.
No, I'm not.
You don't let things in.
I do, but there's certain things I don't like.
Well, it
Anyway.
doesn't take it away from the story.
So, this film was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
It
It's
follows
such a pain.
a
Postman.
son of a postman.
Well, son of the
Post office,
postmaster
yeah.
general, really, isn't it?
Who's sent out to learn his ways by being sent to the most remote island.
Where
is it
everyone hates each
Lapland or
other.
that
No,
way?
it's not. It's made up
Anyway.
world, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I say, a village where it's two sides. A bit like Romeo and Juliet style in some ways. And that does go through the film a little bit at a certain point.
Yeah, it's just two warring factions, families. Isn't it? Just that's all they know. It's their way of life, and they've lost hope, basically.
He's basically got to get so many letters posted.
Yeah, was it 6,000 or something?
In a year.
3,000 in a year, and
when
they
they
could go
don't
home.
use the post office. And it's about the story of him going out and finding what could be Santa Claus. I mean, the clue's in the title.
He just finds a man who's rather lonely, who's made lots of toys for a rather sad backstory, and then manages to convince him to deliver a toy to a child that's locked up in a room, basically, isn't it?
And it is, yeah.
A little bouncy frog.
It's very sweet.
It's incredibly sweet.
It is, and the way they've done Santa is just he's a real gentle giant, hulking fella who
Grumpy bugger.
Yeah.
A bit like you.
Piss off. I've never dressed up as Santa, and I never will.
You said that now.
But no, it was a beautiful film, and I think if you want to watch an original film at Christmas, because let's be honest, there's so much. I mean, you watch it all, but there's so much rubbish out there.
Oh, there's so much bad films that I love.
Oh,
the romantic Christmas ones. I love them all.
Awful.
Oh, watched one where there's a ghost in an inn who falls in love. He becomes a human for 12 days at Christmas. Oh, and he falls in love in 12 days, mind you.
Luckily, we're not a movie podcast, so we only talk about things relating to comics or animation. Because if we had to talk about all that junk...
Oh, dream.
Jeez. There you go. There's a 12-week pre-Christmas podcast.
Yeah, all the Hallmark movies.
So, no, it's a beautiful film.
It is.
And well worth, if you've got your Netflix subscription.
Oh, yeah,
slap
definitely.
It on.
Yeah. Get the
Slap
kids,
it on.
watch it all.
Yeah, no, they'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Definitely. We've also caught up on Ms. Marvel.
Oh, yes.
Not Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel. Wrong character.
Wah, wah, wah.
What did you think? Now, you went into this...
Oh, because I don't
not
like
wanting to
the
watch it
actress.
whatsoever.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I want the cat. Yeah. No, it was silliness.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly what I like from a film.
It was equal with the good ones, I'd say. Not the best ones, but the good ones. It was fun,
Yeah. It's like they were like Ant-Man and stuff like that, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's fine. Perfectly fine.
Did you feel empowered as a woman that you had your woman lead?
No. Should I have?
I don't know.
Is it Wonder Woman?
This is
No.
what people go on about. Yeah, well, people forget about Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman's the one that empowers women as a lead.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't find she empowered me as a woman to feel that I could become something more than I am. No, it was just a fun film.
It was fun.
Didn't matter if it was male or female, to be fair.
No, that's very true.
As a character, so yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Overall, I think we came out of it thinking, we enjoyed it. That was all right. It was all right, that.
Yeah, it's like Aquaman standard, Ant-Man standard, you know, all those middling hero standards. Yeah, it's all
Not
right.
Green Lantern standard.
Oh, no, it wasn't as good as that.
The only reason why you may even put positivity to that is because of Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, have a bit of Ryan Reynolds. Any day.
Jeez. And the other one we watched last night was Glass.
Glass.
So Unbreakable, when that came out,
Amazing film.
absolutely amazing film. It obviously let on or played that there could be a follow-on movie, but
there wasn't for years.
there wasn't.
Yeah.
Then Split.
Which was a fantastic film
Again,
as well.
Didn't feel, unless you knew the twist was coming, that was just a brilliant twist, tying it into that universe. Now, I thought Glass was a really good, enjoyable movie. Oh, now, you see, you did last night. Have you had thoughts?
I did enjoy it. It started well, didn't it? Well, it was a bit slow. But it brought everyone together, and then it lost it.
Where did it lose it?
Oh, for the last 10 minutes. What was the whole point of that? There's going to be no other films. I don't understand. Why? Why leave us with that? Why?
To spoilers.
I'm not going to. But why do that?
Because it finished it off.
I said at the start. I did foreshadow the whole thing.
It stopped a sequel.
Well, it hasn't though.
No, it has.
No, it hasn't. It has
because each of the film focused on a lead character, on a character, and those characters.
Yeah, but then there was always that little twisty bit, and there's a twist in it.
Yeah.
So it could lead on.
Yeah, but not in the way. No, it wouldn't fit with their stories. How he's done it.
Obviously it won't fit with their stories now, but.
But now, my quibble. I'm going to pull you away from that because you're going to spoil stuff. My quibble is obviously we had Unbreakable, where it was all about superheroes. The possibility of superheroes being in the real world. But this film sort of goes a bit deeper with that, looking into the psychology. At no point did I think in the original movie Bruce Willis thought himself a superhero.
No, he kind of. I know.
He realised he had something special about him.
Sorry,
but I don't think he ever thought, I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
Whereas this film pushes that notion that that's what he's thinking about himself.
Yeah, which he isn't ever.
Which I've never felt that he did feel that. He felt he had something special about him and that he could go and make a difference, but not in this level.
Yeah, but he was like a reluctant superhero,
yeah,
wasn't
not
he?
in the level of being a superhero. I never felt that. So that felt a bit jarring.
Yeah, no, I can see that, yeah.
To me. And also, James McAvoy's character, I never felt he was trying to be a villain. He just had problems and this godlike persona was there, but not in a way of being a supervillain.
Well, it didn't seem to... They were all afraid of the Beast, weren't they? But this, it was like the Horde, and there was like he had so many more characters that came out as well.
Well, there was always so many. They just didn't use them.
Yeah, I know that, but it just seemed that it muddied that bit. It took away.
It felt
from his
like it was
personalities.
forced to pull it all together. They forced this ideology without bringing it in the other stories.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
And that's the only negativity to the film. I really enjoyed it as a film.
Really, even the ending.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I did.
No.
But it felt a bit disjointed with the other ones for that reason. Particularly the scene, because it shows it on the trailer, we can talk about the scene where the all three are sat there being talked to by a psychologist.
Yeah.
And it's just a question she was asking the Bruce Willis's character. I just didn't feel he would answer them the way he was answering. He wouldn't sit there saying, "Yeah, I am a superhero."
Yeah.
He'd be like, "No, I'm just a guy who can do special things."
Yeah.
It just didn't flow right, that part of it.
Yeah, no, I get you.
But the fight scenes were great.
Oh, fight scenes are cool.
They were really good. I think James McAvoy is amazing in this.
He's an amazing actor. Isn't he?
Flip between those characters is something completely different to anything he's done.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
and Samuel Jackson's just
Samuel Jackson.
So it's. I can never say his name. M. Night Shyamalan. This trilogy, as a trilogy, I do like. I think it's a nice trilogy.
I like the take on the whole superhero genre.
Yeah. That and The Sixth Sense, If he just leaves it at that.
Yeah, please.
And doesn't make other stuff like he has done. We'll just forget about those. He's got skills.
He has.
But he just likes to push it too far sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Okay. Watch it.
We're going to close this down now because Nikki looks like she's going to die.
I'm not. I'm fine. I've got to go to work tomorrow.
Oh, you.
I know, right?
So can we close this then by wishing everybody
Happy Christmas!
Thank you in particular to Mike, Pete and Tom for getting all their support this year.
That's a plague-ridden kiss for you all.
Merry Christmas to everyone at the Lakes Festival for getting their support.
Yes, thank you.
This year.
Should I give them a plague-ridden kiss as well?
You really want to. In particular, Julie and John.
They can have their own special kisses.
Dying. Thank you to anyone who's listened. And
they get special kisses.
A shout out to, in particular, Tony Esmond, who's been wonderful.
Oh, he gets a really plaguey kiss.
And gave out your website a shout on the show.
Yes, thank you ever so much.
Look out next year for some badges.
My badges should be coming through. I'm so excited.
I don't think we're doing a con until Mac Pow, so there's a few months yet before, unless there's something else pops up.
I'll probably catch another disease by then.
Yeah. hand it around everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's
Free,
Oldham
with a free
first.
badge.
No, Oldham's first.
Oldham
isn't it?
first.
Oldham's first, sorry.
We'll be Oldham.
Oldham.
Yeah, that's cool. We like it there.
Oldham up. We're coming.
Jesus Christ.
That's my Christmas cracker joke.
Not your butter dish one you've been doing all day.
We got a batter dish. We're getting old. We got a batter and real batter.
Butter dish. But is it, what's it? But is it a dish? Oh,
But is it?
I don't know. What were you saying? It was like really awful.
Anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And we'll see you next year.
2020.
Jeez.
It's another decade.
God, we're old.
I know, right?
Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.